I don't think that is permission to just account hands. Probably good.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
Somebody
That would be this bad.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
I believe this is also a twist off.
I don't know.
Sorry, I was sleeping.
All my legs are sore.
What else to say? It's hilarious. That's not free.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
Man with a mission.
I hate your fireballs.
Yeah, the fireballs are kind of nice. Hi! Hate it!
Boss Corp would be big death.
Yeah, there's another word.
So I brought my fish, my fireballs, and mug.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
No.
Batteries.
Run.
Everything else?
Thank you very much. I see why they say they suck so much. Thank you very much. I was kind of waiting for Onyx to come down. Onyx said he had a bottle opener in his room. Didn't even think about that.
Server connection failed. Connection
So this
timed
is
out.
from the 15th anniversary of Fairfax, Virginia.
Yeah.
They had a, so Star went to that one. And Fairfax with Bonnie Anderson.
I said I have to do something, so I get my work.
One thing.
How that works.
So they had a decoration. So I wore my floppy hat, walk-on hat, and I had printed out and blown up in scale the qualities of my floppy hat and game house. And when you click on it, it says floppy hat, customer strength, and dexterity, or whatever it is. And so I pasted that inside my hat. So that nobody knew it was in there. I was wearing this floppy hat. Then I was wearing my sandals, like you can wear in UO, and pants kind of rolled up to the knees, so short pants, and a blue shirt, so it was like I was, and then I had actually big guys walking like that. So I wasn't intending to get any kind of art. Bonnie says, just because Winfield is so true to life,
Server
you
connection
got to get up
failed.
here and get on.
Connection timed out.
Nice.
Put me in front of
I'm gonna wait till the line man.
fireballs.
Yeah, there's something, doing a little thing.
That's where the came from. Funny
Potato salad and.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes. I'm out of breath and it's hard to think straight. No, it's
They call it a loaded baked potato. They take it out of the skin.
Just saw it yesterday. And it's not colored yet, but it'll be on the release.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
I saw a female armor, late armor, where women's clothing is in route right now.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
I was just so
Taser.
I didn't do it. Don't taser me, bro.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
You were there from the very end.
Oh, yeah, that's only temporary blocking. Yes, I understand the problem. And now
When I walked by.
Maybe we'll get to a meeting. I don't care.
What meeting?
Sandwich, kids off their arms.
This was the best. I know.
You know, I think right now would be the perfect time for Xavier to get up and make a speech. It's up to you guys.
Okay, so they get.
Server connection
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We have to
Connection
get
timed out.
last few minutes before he needs something.
We're, let everybody do what they're doing.
as a free, as other adjustments are made, it's made rights. Oh, well, generally speaking, no. I mean, hypothetically, it's like the guy that built out the Novia map first, he made some, well, he thinks are improvements, I think are errors. Some of which are having some background. Goes back to my intent. And so
You're home, you're going to a plane. You good luck with that.
it's unlikely, by the way, that's the case. Well,
2020.
completely unrelated thing. But,
I was a
they
driver.
they were technical there. Like, for example, this technical there, if you see this island,
Brought him on
when
the
he
plane
drew
with
it,
me.
he
Great,
made documents that stick out.
They didn't say a word.
Farthest west of any part of Novia. So when you notice like a map, that's you've got some part exactly. It's just that the tech back
You can't bring it back.
the rivers in this quadrant are pretty nice and skinny like rivers. So by the time you get here, they're trying to get wide. Go back and forth. And so the towns wider bits of water are probably going to be pulled in. But you are right here. Right now, you go way around. Yeah, I get it. You'll eventually be able to go through it.
Server
That's why I like to do it.
connection
When I
timed
shoot
out.
like this. Way too much. I got place on it. I ain't gonna sit there at the airport. When I bend over, you're really out of breath. And I'm doing it here.
But what that tells me, so the bad news, the good news, the silver lining of that for me is that implies there's value you, and then,
So I have data collection.
and that is go to BMC.
They go to the Jim Jones museum?
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
That was Jim Jones. Jim Jones, the guy that was down here.
I think two meetings. They're,
Vivian's the Dominion brother.
One was when I talked to me about his post-house life.
Nobody see it down
Another
here.
one falls under the NASCAR.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
Got me in town for the space thing to give a talk on Friday morning. I gave a talk on space thing. Before he leaves town, and also.
Here, here.
Friday morning. So I was good for keynote for space conferences. So I was speaking on Tuesday. Usually separate the occasionally together. I talk about games a lot. But I also got space flights. I'm a astronaut. Right. So YouTube through space.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
No.
Stars, 10 minutes out. He went to the wrong express. Oh, 100 will be at the quote master level, that is true, but by the way, level 1, there's no cap on 100. So we internally achieved it.
Server connection
I
failed.
think the highest
Connection
I've ever seen
timed out.
anybody, even with pretty good cheating, is about 150. So, but by the way, we'll get some monsters. At least it should be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to BMC Convention. I'm really glad you could come. We're going to start this out as a regular guild meeting, and so that would mean our wonderful and lovely recruiter Jade is going to come up here. But as a thank you, we've got Jade something, so Jade, come on.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
Neil and she showed us.
Oh, yeah, hold on, wait. A little bit more.
You have a slot for it.
It's not really bad. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, I can do that. All right.
You might have to do a little bit more.
That was very sweet. We going? All right.
Yes.
You're live.
I am here to call the meeting to order. As far as status in the guild and the guild members, obviously we've had a really slow player rate right now, coming up to a white, pretty traditional. I still encourage all the players to come out and play because it's not useless. Remember, all the skill that you get counts into the next race. With extra experience points to the level when you invite. So please come out and play. And if you have any questions or having any problems in the guild, be sure and contact me. And that's all I have. I'd like to turn this over to Xavier Starkle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Cochran, and I'm here representing the avatar Xavier Starfall. My name is Xavier Starfall. I am the vice president of the Britannia Mining Company. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. Thank you for Richard and Star for coming out tonight, and our friends from Order of the Drunken Elders. Yeah. We have two others, Land of the Wolf. Of course, I can say the best for last, our great friend Winfield. Thank you very much. It's been a very great community leader for us. We're definitely glad to be friends. And also, I know Peyton Phoenix Fire, and them aren't able to be here, but another great community friends of ours and stuff. So basically, just like to, we've had Jade, of course, is our guild steward, has done like the main recruiting part of it. Lazarus Long is our one of our emissaries who does recruiting. We don't have anybody else currently, or had an open position, I should say, and we've recently filled it with N. Lockery. N. Lockery is upgraded to go to the manor, so he's a great representative for us. Welcome in, and
Thank you very much.
welcome on board to the executive branch of the guild as an emissary, so be involved in recruiting and also trying to get out and do more guild relations and as basically ambassadors to other guilds and stuff in there. We'll basically be working on that in the future because a lot of times we get caught up in so much and everything that we have going on. Sometimes you can't lose sight of that community development that makes this game so great. So thank you, Ian.
Thank you. It's an honor, and I'll do my best.
Very well, thank you. I can't tell you how great it is really to see this virtual world really come to life here this weekend for me, and just meeting all these people. And I mean, I've met in game and online. I think so. Ezekiel Cooper back in 2008. So known him for ever how many years that is now, 7 years now. And just that finally actually to meet him, and I know he's been with Brickbat, our Speaker of the House in the legislative branch, and getting him to meet him for the first time. It's just really good to see that stuff happen. But so one of the other things I usually always discuss is events. So we always have our two main events. Every Sunday night we have the BMC Gridiron, which is be happening this Sunday again, as always, at 5:30 NBT, or New Britannia time. And then we have typically our craft fair, who we recently have shifted that to the craft show to be more fit our mercantile guild stuff, to actually allow our crafters in the guild to get out and sell their wares, have a place for them to sell their wares and stuff that they make. So it's pretty interesting, and we definitely look forward. Unfortunately, we're not having one this month just with the convention. Just didn't allow us really enough time to plan it and everything. So of course, after the light, we'll definitely pull something together and have a great deal, which we currently have an outset. Jade has provided a lot for us for our crafting lot. So and also I always want to try to get guild members in the BMC. I know typically we're in Mumble and have 30 people on average in Mumble talking about stuff. So they're not be able to be here with us in person, but I always want to recognize other events out in the community. So basically, I just listed a few here just to make sure we get ones. Sarah Knight has his Sarah Knight shopping extravaganza he's doing every Sunday at 2 p.m. I believe. So. Yeah, so that's
He's an old friend. He's an old friend of BMC, guys. All the way back to the least 10.
Yeah, and we really like him. We definitely want to get out and show him support and in his shopping extravaganza that he's doing. Of course, we have the Gridiron on Sunday, and then of course there's Fishing with Winfield, who recently had a. It's actually the real. That's what I was saying. He might have it with an RP event, but it's always RP.
Everybody RP.
Everybody RP. Yeah, it's great though to get out and fish. That's really it's really fun to actually get everybody get together and do that. So, but it's obviously we're always one of there again show support for Winfield and Pack Slayer and all the great things they do by going to not only that but many other events that they have too. So, a new PvP event, which is something in our chief of staff, Jarl Axel, who runs our militia, which is our PvP side of the guild, which is basically in the old Brandy days would be in Toluca protecting the miners out from losing their ore to PKers. So obviously in the Shard Falls we'll need that help again, and also taking control points for when we're transporting goods, to transport them to other portions of the land in Novia to sell our wares. So basically he's not able to be here, but they're so he's always trying to help get people trained up for the PvP, and not only in the gridiron fighting, but also there's a new event. What I'm getting to is the the Gladiator Wars that they're having on Thursday nights is a pretty neat event. We've been to a few times, so you know that is I'm sorry. Pestilence. Thank you. Pestilence has that. He's been having that for quite some time, I believe. So, and then recently, now I haven't had a chance to do this, but the Phoenix Republics has their on Thursday nights has their PVE nights at 7 p.m. So, and this is something I think I missed the first one, but coming up next Saturday at 12 p.m. we have Duke Greger has the AD&D Adventure in Dara Bray. So that'd be interesting. I'm sure if anybody had a chance to go to that, that sounds neat. Like to go check it out, and of course give Duke Greger any assistance in any of his events that he does. So, and then also next 3 p.m. another big community person is having an R22 Halloween party. So at Blake Blackstone, and that's going to be at the Graveyard and the Player on Town of Vanguard. He's having, I think, Winfield, you're going to be a judge in that, right? For best costume and.
You can bribe me now if you'd like.
Bribe me now. I'm just saying.
And this is before actually all the Halloween costumes come out actually in game. So so you got to get kind of inventive in this. It'll be a little bit easier probably next time they have it. But it's also the best original music piece, I guess, for anybody that makes music in game. So
Original.
Original, right, very good. And of course, another thing that I kind of oversee in the guild is our in-game events, which are we have our event coordinator, Win Silver Moon, to put this together. So opportunity to come up and speak to us about some events and just different things you wanted to share with us today. So come on up, Win.
I don't have any events planned. I never have events planned. No, actually, today is not about me giving out awards. Like you guys. Okay. So, first, we have a birthday, and it's Sir Dan's. Where is he?
Sir Dan.
Sir Dan.
He's out there eating.
Of course, he got out there eating. Come here.
Sir Dan's.
And to say happy birthday, we've got you.
We just practiced that song last night.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Sir Dan.
Happy birthday, Sir Dan. Happy birthday to you.
Okay. The second thing we have is to say thank you to Jaron, our master coin. Is he here?
Yes, he's here.
Jaron.
Jared.
Here's Jaron Schwartzar.
Now he's defending the realm. Maybe.
He might be defending the realm.
Lucky board for an item. He's out checking commodity prices.
That's
Yes, he did. He got
Has a good story to
Anyway,
use it with.
Since
Exactly.
I don't have any points, you got him Disney points. I have a coin collection. And for Xavier Starfall, where is he? Right there you go. So, we got you. Okay.
At least she didn't say turn around.
He's also in charge of the military,
Jared.
or at least partly. Oh, you were.
Thank you.
That's right, you were in charge of the military.
I was,
So,
yeah.
when I started this event, you were in charge of the military, so, hence the dagger. For you, Jared, we've gotten points.
Master point.
All right, and for Zeke, our wonderful co-leader, who drives us crazy most of the time.
He gets a tear.
But we really want to put you in the crowd.
Might be a hat band you got there.
That's it, might be nice.
That's what I thought. I thought it'd be a great hat band for his hat.
Might not be. We try.
Oh,
You can snap it. Well.
Let's see. Without you, this would not be possible. The guild would not be possible. And we love having this guild.
I'm gonna interrupt, just because as chaos, I get to interrupt whenever I want. Stay here. The reason I'm interrupting is because she's standing up here, and earlier today, she cornered me and tried to bribe me. She tried to bribe me in order to get cannibalism in it.
You
And the answer is yes. Yeah, so she was wearing those steampunk goggles last night, and I admired them greatly, and she let me wear them, and I'm a fan of steampunk.
Yes.
And so, because of that, you get.
Thank you.
So you took the bribe, right?
No, I didn't take the bribe.
Oh, he didn't take the bribe.
I thought
But it's
But she's
It's on the list.
trying, I'm
Thank you, Wayne, that's an awesome
Thank you,
job.
sir.
Thank you very much for all the positive. And with that, I'm pretty much done. I'll turn it over to Jared Schwartzar, our treasurer of the guild.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you to Wynn for putting on this excellent convention. Thank you, Zeke, for putting together an excellent deal. I intended to have my usual discussion about current status of the markets and then move on to a special piece discussing the validity of the economics involved in virtual economies. I'm a little nervous about this. I'll tell you right now. I was told literally last night, Aaron, I want you to really knock it out of the park with a discussion about the economics. I want you to impress everyone.
Who told you? I wonder who said that.
I don't know. But I am speaking extemporary.
That way.
Yeah.
Exactly, that way. I will be stammering over words, but I will be covering the subject that I've come to know quite well through both my profession.
First, we would like to hear your credentials, sir.
Well, I suppose I should go into that. I am Jaron Schwartzar, treasurer of the BMC. That is my avatar. In the real world, I am James Cadd. MBA, BBA, specialty in finance and economics. 6 years experience as a financial analyst for a retirement investment agency. I help individuals make their investments to basically ensure that they'll have money available to them when they retire.
Is there a phone number?
So we can play out.
You got a card?
www.claytoncsi.com or claytonfinancialservices.com. Shameless self-promotion. All right. First, let's discuss about the current status of things. The commodities markets are pretty well in line with what we've actually established in terms of prices at the last General Assembly, with the two most glaring examples of that not being in line being spider carapaces and silver ingots, which we have been aware of. We are working on laying as a work that, but time slipped away from us. Next month we'll be holding another General Assembly, and with the impending wipe, there's really just no cause to really get into that right now. So we're just going to let it ride and fix it next time around. We are expecting within the next couple of weeks a full market collapse with the pending wipe. Basically, when people don't want to buy anything because you can't take it with you the next wipe, and people don't want to sell anything for the exact same reason, well, no one's buying, no one's selling, there's no market. So prices are going to be all over the place, and we'll probably stop looking at it except in morbid curiosity, which is rather interesting to watch an economy destroy itself. You don't see that in the real world.
Yeah, you
It's
Never that's completely, and I wasn't alive when Greece, no.
Venezuela.
You can talk about Greece, but that's still not entirely destroyed. Venezuela, oh yeah, you can go into that one, but yeah, they have their own special problems. But now I'd like to move on to the discussion about the virtual economy that is present in pretty much every video game we have ever played. A lot of people do not give it much credence because, well, most people don't think it is a real economy. But we have to look into it. What exactly is an economy? Well, frankly, if you got two people trading coconuts for seashells to each other, that's an economy. Basically, as long as it is the aggregate of all the markets in there. So if there is people who have something to sell, people who have something that they want to buy, and a means by which to facilitate that, i.e. currency, in our case gold, then you have an economy. And it is basically that simple. Now, like a full-size economy, which in some games is about the same size as what you would see, you run into economic issues. The two major ones that most countries have to combat, and games have to combat as well, is inflation and deflation. Inflation more so than deflation because there's special problems with video game economies that you don't see in, well, there's tools in our economy to actually deal with. I'm speaking directly about the central banking system that you see in all major world economies, that there is a method by which they can inject liquidity into a market to help bolster inflation and avoid deflation, and they can, in the same token, actually raise interest rates and cool off an economy so that there is less liquidity out there, basically keeping inflation from going out of check. There's really no way to put a central banking system into the game because nobody's loaning money, or, well, we will be loaning money, but that's a different story. And even then, it's no central system to really establish a basis of rates. So in this case, we have methods of creating wealth, i.e. gold, going out, questing, killing elves, selling leather straps to build a tailor and making gold that way. And no way for the gold to really vanish. The gold just builds and builds and builds. That's why each game has its own built-in gold sinks, such as training our classes, buying raw materials, reagents. The houses will be, real estate market will be a considerable gold sink, I feel, as well as the rents that will be established on those. So that will help with the problem. Although another issue that's special to video game economies is the monitoring of inflation. We are able to monitor inflation through the United States through through the CPI. So we're about to go GDP, but that's something different. I'm a little nervous. Now, that is one tool that can be utilized. You can monitor the prices of certain goods on the market and be able to tell if these are becoming inflated through price appreciation. So if gold ingots today are 200 gold and you see a massive spike in the price of them over the time, that could be signs of inflation. But another method that I would advocate would be the monitoring of conversion rates. Oh, this is going to be a big one. Sorry here. I'm nervous.
Doing great. Yes. This is going to be a teaching tool for all Britannians coming in the future.
Thank you very much. Something I would advocate for would be a method by which to convert in-game, real-world U.S. dollars into in-game currency, creating a marketplace for individuals who have a surplus of gold who wish to sell it for what I would propose be the portalarium currency, so that they can buy new items that are on the add-on store or other areas. Potentially, there might be a way of converting that to cash, but that would be an optional feature. And you would be able to utilize this free market of currency between U.S. dollars and in-game gold as a measure of actual inflation rate. You'd be basing the currency off the stable rate, well, fairly stable. U.S. currency is fairly consistent in most times. But at the same time, you would also be able to enforce an exchange policy where basically with each exchange, some of the gold would be able to come out. You'd be able to increase or decrease that to create additional gold sinks to be able to cool the economy off. That was the suggestion I proposed to Zeke and he that I should present it here. Hopefully it's well received.
Chris Spears would be in favor.
Excellent. And it would also help with eliminating the need to worry so much about gold farmers or, well, macros would still be a problem, but there's other tools for that. Because there's no market for an illicit gold market, and there would be no need for us to worry about some Chinese company putting out 300 individuals and then just want gold.
Now touch on that just a second, if you would, sir. Tell us a little bit about what your experience is with the Chinese economy and Chinese marketing and the Chinese scripters that destroy the American gaming and European gaming communities.
They are purely parasitic. Basically, the difference between them and, say, individuals who would be selling gold through an open marketplace is the individuals who are selling gold through the open marketplace to generate that gold through the process of playing the game.
Here's another question I have for you on that.
I haven't finished the first one.
It's not nervous anymore. I'm nervous anymore.
Yes, sir.
Whereas with a Chinese group, basically what I have personally seen in several video games is what they do is send out several individuals out there to go through, pretty much basic gathering stuff and just selling and selling to vendors, generating gold. Basically they have 10, 20 people fill the order that's one individual places for the amount of gold.
Yes.
Now, as opposed to a normal person gathering gold, this is an inflation generating effect. This is not being generated through the standard play of the game. It's not being done through the involvement with the game aside from to exploit the game. So by flooding the economy with more and more gold, this makes the problem of actually controlling inflation all the more difficult. This can be said of
How can that be countered?
monitoring, banning, IP banning, shut those fuckers down.
Absolutely.
Down? All right, I'll say, shut those fuckers down. We have to.
That's what I thought you said.
Delicate sensibilities.
And on top of that, I believe it's almost, I've done some reading, it's almost a humanity or a human interest or, because some of these people are working for slave labor wages.
You know what?
No.
Part of that is more to do with the Chinese communist system and how it's basically trying to.
Johnny's not smart enough to go to school, let's put them in there, 10 cents an hour, they can play his games.
They have
software to just.
Yes, there are macroist programs that do exactly the same thing, basically working around the honest way of actually playing and earning up wealth by just 24 hours a day. And they are just as much a parasite as those out of China, because they are once again boosting that inflation rate by generating more gold than can be bled off. One of the major benefits of having an open system by which individuals can go to and buy gold in US dollars if they so choose to, is that it eliminates what's going to happen. There is no such thing as a solitary economy. There is no economy that is off by itself, completely cut off from everyone else, and does not do business with other people, even in the virtual world. If there is not an in-game system by which to allow for the conversion of wealth from one currency to another currency, others will put up systems that are against the end-user license agreement and against the interest of the game, due to the simple fact of where there is a demand for a service, someone will fill that service legally or illegally. That is human nature at its absolute core. Your second question.
Yeah.
You're an absolute financial genius. Please continue.
Really concerning inflation and the economics and how basically a virtual economy is no different than a real economy is already been covered and proven. We only have to look to the Bitcoin to see that virtual currency is no less valid than the US dollar, although they have their own problems with inflation and speculative markets because individuals buying into the Bitcoin have raised the price up so much that there was a collapse due to a loss of faith concerning some of the major Bitcoin currency exchangers. Someone made off with some odd million Bitcoins.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Actually, their code was
So,
bad.
what is your recommendation,
That wasn't
sir?
the code that was that bad, that was the CEO that jacked it.
No, essentially, they were able to keep withdrawing when they didn't have money in there.
Yeah, it was a ring in New York.
Which is why any sort of economy, virtual or otherwise, must have clear monitoring on there so that if you see anyone trying to game the system using gold, that did not exist, moments ago by just creating it through code magic. That sets off alarm bells throughout the system and basically, once again, you create some sort of punitive response.
So what is your suggestion that BMC should take as far as the route that we should take inside this virtual currency to ensure that we survive in this atmosphere of deflation and inflation?
That purely depends upon what we see from the developers themselves. I mean, we cannot completely base our decisions on them. If they decide to create a marketplace by which the exchange of currency is taking place, then we must respect that, go through that, and any thoughts we had previously of doing currency exchange must be abandoned, or we would be harming the economy and ourselves in doing so. Should they not do so? The BMC is prepared to go ahead and be that exchange system. If I have to, I will figure. Oh, sorry.
No, finish. I'll wait at the end.
I will go ahead and start doing trying to figure out what a fair balance between the dollar to gold and currency exchange is. It'll be a lot of hit and miss. There'll be days when we're low, there'll be days when we're high, but we'll finally get to a golden mean, and we'll find, provide gold to individuals.
Which of those two routes do you prefer?
I prefer you to do it, sir. Okay. Because there is
Can I ask some questions?
Focus.
Okay, so this obviously is a subject we wrestle with also. It's a complicated issue. As everybody knows, we're going to get to banking level of transaction management.
No, you're having to take out loans to play a game. That's not good.
Right, but I just mean even transaction tracking whenever you get to the level of a bank. And so that's why there is, in many games, there's a shyness to do real money transactions fundamentally. It's just because once you're trading openly within the game real dollars for digital assets, if the digital asset evaporates due to a bug, you now owe somebody a real dollar, which is much more litigious than.
Which is why I propose the buffer system of using names for credit.
Right. So here's my question about So my question really goes to both the economy as well as player perception. So we universally agree that we want to find a way to get gold farmers out, and we also generally agree that if you start with the fundamental assumption that time is valuable, then a virtual sword that you spend 100 hours earning has 100 hours worth of value, however you want to describe it. So innately, there is a real money value of your time that you can equate to dollars or gold pieces or whatever else. There's value in that virtual object that's inherent. And so therefore, if you don't find a way to cut off the snakes that are mining automated or slave labor methods, those will respawn. And there's also, if we allow those sorts of automated or foreign systems to operate, then that is money, frankly, that's not circulating in the real economy. And so it's also lost to all of us, including us, the company, which if we could realize that would help sustain the game versus those real dollars overseas. So long setup to say, what do you think one of the reasons we haven't just sold a virtual currency and then had that as an exchange rate in the game, part of why we just haven't just dove in and just say that's it, is a concern about player reception. Now, it sounded to me like very much what you were proposing is buy a secondary currency and have an exchange rate between that secondary currency and in-game gold and let it float.
Actually, I propose free open market. What the way I would do it is the individuals, it would be very akin to the Eve Plex system, if you're familiar with that. Individuals would buy the in-game currency, the store currency, the portalarium, and then there would be an in-game tool where which one individual could sell the in-game currency, and they ask so much gold for it. People who have the gold would then buy it. Allow the exchange rate to establish itself by using a floating rate within the system. That way, it allows for the players to, they can find someone who can purchase it cheaper. And
But what you're calling portalarium currency or store credit, whatever it is really the mid currency. That's this directly related to U.S. dollar. Whether or not you can trade that mid currency back to U.S. dollars is a separate question.
That would be
but going from store credits to in-game gold, at least that those go back and forth. With the in-game gold, you might be able to buy in-game stuff with, convert it back to store credit, but you can then buy some of the add-on items, so that again captures the real value of that real money. Effectively. Okay, that's your suggestion. So how do you think? By the way, that's why I said Chris Spears. I think that's exactly what Chris Spears would like to do. Right on that, pretty much nail on the
I
head.
think what you're concerned with is the perception of free-to-play,
Buy
pay
gold.
to win.
Right. That is the concern. So what do you think about that issue?
The first thing that has to be done, and this is difficult for a lot of people, is you have to stop thinking of money as being money. Money is not money. Money is literal time. It is your time, it is your effort, and if an individual wishes to spend their time and effort in that way to get a little boost in it, they can do so. But it isn't going to really give them all that much of an advantage in the game. The only true advantage in the game will come through basically trial and error. You can gear a character up in the game as it sits right now and go out with regular orders and get your
That's what
booty
makes the
straps.
skill system so great.
So there's no real way to get a leg up in that way. It's not like World of Warcraft where you can go out and get yourself a full blue set of armor and you're level 10, go out to the PvP fields and just be the cock of the walk. You don't have to. Matter of fact, there's no level 10s. Because we have no idea whose level is what. It's surprised. You can see some guy in starter gear and, oh gee, he's level 40. I'm dead. Or whatever level. My level's rather low, so 40 would kill. But, so I don't think in our game, there may be some griping, but there's going to be griping in every game with that. And it's, it's free to play all right, but you got to pay to win. And it's not true. Because other individuals can just spend the time and effort in the game, if they have it available to them, and they get their currency in there, and then they can convert it to other people's time and effort in the form of US dollars or currency in the case. So they're really griping, I'll grant you that, but it won't be valid and it won't be able to gain that fraction.
Hey, can I ask one more question? So some of you may have seen that I snuck in a couple of gold minting dies.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
They use about gold. We got.
Now, for the record, I did that, again, I was asked to provide proof that it existed in the game after hearing rumors. I actually got it on video, as most of you may know. I was talking with Richard, and at one point I was talking to a whole bunch of people over at my shop, and I put it on a vendor. And people were like up in arms about this die. But my whole purpose was A, to prove it existed first, and then B, that would also help set a currency rate per se. And we had a little discussion about that earlier, if we could just go on, but yes.
Yeah, and so exactly. So this won't have the same effect as the open exchange of in-store credit to gold. But as another thought, because specifically one of the concerns about that was just a player perception of selling gold, which I agree it's just time. And so I totally agree with your argument, by the way. I just don't know if that will be true globally in the player community as much as we need it to be.
Basically, as long as it is an open market and well monitored, basically, you have to be open about it. If we don't do it, someone else is going
Somebody
to.
else will anyway. I agree. It's going to happen no matter what. There will be an eBay way to buy gold no matter what. But pardon me, I'll finish this up thought about the coin die. So sort of my secret idea for the coin die was the following. Right now you can go mine gold ore, you can smelt it from the ingots, you can smelt it from the bars. But if you want to get gold coins from that, you actually have to take that gold bar to a NPC merchant or some other player who has found gold somehow and trade it. And now they have a gold bar and ingot, right? There's no in the game method of converting other than through us, fundamentally gold into coins. There's no mint. And we sort of are the mint. The NPCs are the mint. But then I thought, well, if let's suppose a gold bar weighs the same as 1,000 gold coins, well then you might think that a fair exchange rate was a gold bar for 1,000 gold coins. But if you put a gold die in the game, that is the way there's a crafting recipe that lets you convert a gold bar into gold coins.
Absolutely.
It lets you decide what the exchange rate is, if you know what I mean. And we could then just sell that die. We could actually just say, look, I'll sell it for $1,000 or $10 or
Now,
$1,
we
whatever
were,
it is.
we were talking, and you said there was, like the MPC would take, a
Right, so
percentage of,
we would
of
let
the
you guys
rate.
undercut our bank, so to speak, undercut the
Absolutely,
NPC. Because the
absolutely.
NPC is going to want to spiritually take a profit. So if a gold bar is worth, his weight is 1,000 coins, maybe he'll only give you 700 coins for it because he needs to keep a profit.
And that goes back to time is money for the MPC.
For the NPC.
Absolutely.
But then you'll get 1,000 for your gold die. With your coin die, you can take a gold bar and make 1,000 coins. It's up to you to keep, as whether you're keeping 300 or 200 or 100 or zero. Compared to what the NPC would. But then, by the way, we didn't just turn off the NPCs. In the long run, we're having fun getting out of the economy and leaving as much of it in your hands as possible. And so my dream world was to get rid of us being the gold coin bank and let you guys mint your money.
I see where you're going with this, but
And we sell the dies for cash, which is how we break.
On the add-on.
Right.
But the main problem with that is that would be, depending on how much gold the person would buy to do that, of course, like fine gold, which is not horribly common. And also, there's the issue of, doing so would be, basically you'd just be adding gold to the economy instead of transferring it. The beauty of a market-based system is it's taking gold from individuals who have too much gold already and transfer it to individuals who don't have enough gold. And also it takes a bit of the gold out of the system through the exchange rate as well, so keeping inflation in check. Your system, with all due respect, actually will create more inflation by creating a larger supply of gold in-game without going through the work of actually building it up. I mean, it literally takes away the time value of money because there was no time value spent.
Except that the gold ore, the same bar of gold they had to work to achieve by getting the ore and then smelting it and whatever else. So I was trying to specifically keep that effort. All I was trying to take away was the step where you sell it to NBC.
And gold is somewhat rare.
Gold is real money. And it's not that hard to get gold, so.
But with this method, we could actually turn off the spawning of all gold in the game. So I would actually say, take it all the L's you find gold on, take it to zero.
Not a problem. I believe gold's going to have other purposes later on when individuals are able to craft accessories and jewelry.
Exactly.
So you can have an item that has two separate purposes, and possibly later on in open market environments, a bar of gold could actually have more of a value in gold than
in the coin.
Right, because gold is also, it's not just going to be used for jewelry, it's going to be used for enchantments.
Then, I don't. It's either going to be worthwhile as a commodity and transferring wealth that way, which is always a thing, or it's going to be an inflation generating device.
Can it be both? Because I mean that's basically what it is in the real world.
Actually, no, not anymore, I'm afraid. There was once upon a time, you were quite right, that gold was viewed as an alternative currency. In fact, it was the basis of U.S. and all world currencies that the gold standard. That's gone away since the Bretton Woods system, and now we're using a fiat-based currency system. Gold was held in the minds of many investors to be a currency alternative, a currency hedge, if you will. So the economy and the currencies will just go up and up and up, and gold, will retain its value, which is why it went up. Then Spider Gold's ETF services was created in 1998, and screwed that all up. Then individuals were able to buy gold cheaply, easily, not have to store it in a big bank vault to do the processing ETF. And State Street advisors would go out and buy the bullion and hold it in one of their vaults. And if you look at the price of gold from that period of time on, it shot up until about 2011 when it collapsed. I remember that because a lot of my clients were in that. It's not a good time. Through that feature and other ETFs featuring precious metals, now gold is a speculative currency, a speculative commodity. So basically, individuals are buying gold not based upon its true underlying value, but based upon what they think that value is going to be tomorrow. It's sort of like the same games they play in oil that causes us to cringe at the pumps. Not right now because, well,
on the other side.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia got tired of us actually threatening to export oil because the oil boom in the United States kicked up so high. but that's neither here nor there. So while gold in itself, gold really in the game should have 2 or 3 purposes of match. I'm not just speaking of the gold. The enchantments you spoke of, jewelry, and if you want to do the, press, no, I'm going to say it's a neat little gimmick, but I don't see it as an alternative to actually having a free market.
Right. Still might be fun, but not for market balance.
No, because it's just adding currency gold into the system and through an unusual method, and could cause difficulties if it became common. And also, if you did have that out there and did have it for the other devices, you wouldn't be able to turn off those. You could turn off those gold modes, I suppose. Boy, that would piss a lot of jewelers and enchanters.
It wouldn't be, no, I think what Richard was trying to say is we wouldn't turn off the
Wouldn't
portos,
turn
we
off
would
the
turn off the
NPCs
coin
that-
as loot.
We wouldn't auto-generate gold in the world.
Like the point is like
That
only.
has
So there's no gold coins that we magically created in the world. Just like right now, we don't create any weapons in the world anymore.
No.
All we make parts and pieces and the raw materials. You
Well,
make all the
we're
weapons.
getting-
We're pushing.
right.
You would still loot some
That's the goal.
weapons, but
That's
those
the goal.
weapons
So the
are
goal
still
is
self-qualified.
all the weapons that are dropped by a monster ultimately will be things you all made that you put on stores and then we rake out of the side or make copies of or whatever.
Or just
That
parts.
causes another difficulty, though, with a barrier to entry into the game. If we don't have a method by which these newer players can generate some currency easily, it's going to be such a steep learning curve unless they have the backing of a strong guild.
No, but I actually think that the reason why we're kind of easing into this, when we go from beta to live, we're not going to have 0 finished goods in the world. What we're going to do is take a snapshot of the beta finished goods in the world, clean it up, how much we need to do, and then migrate that forward into the things. Not the things in your inventories, by the way. I just mean so that we have maker's marks on the finished goods that will be present. We'll use an image of the work you guys have already done. And we'll populate the NPC stores with something so that the world's not empty. But I actually think you guys will do a pretty darn good job of making sure that it will be economically in your best interest to make sure that the stores are well stocked, because those NPC stores will be eager buyers. The lower stock they have, the more they're going to want to buy things from you all, which we want you to sell them. And then every monster that's out in the world is going to need a sword or a part or a piece to drop. And if we have to invent it out of nothingness, we're going to try to go as base as possible, as close to dirt as we can spawn as possible. Let you guys make the dirt valuable through crafting effort. And then if a boss monster needs a thing, we'll buy finished goods from you guys as close to that as possible.
That will make it so the inflation rate is very low as compared to other MMOs, to be certain. Due to the fact that the wealth creation is truly our wealth creation. It's not
Exactly.
go
That's
out,
what
collect so
that's sort of
much
what we're pushing towards. We think that will be easier to balance. We'll need fewer drains.
But it will be, but his point is also valid too, which is the big challenge would be the barrier to entry for users. Because if there's no currency being given for time, and instead goods that can be exchanged for currency, it's providing one layer of interaction. So
The point is conversation right now, right here, right now. Where is the meeting?
Actually, I just had an idea.
We're feeling our way
We're
through
gonna
it.
have to do.
We have a question over here.
Implement your system, but only after a period of time that there's enough gold in the economy, in the market, so that a new player can go out, harvest the iron. Certainly.
We'll get to it.
And after a certain period of time, once there's enough gold out there, then the new players could still generate wealth through basic gathering and selling that and getting the gold from the more experienced players onto the marketplace. That is possible, and that would curtail the inflation.
And don't forget, even the shopkeepers are going to want to have some gold coin that they'll buy from you, because they'll want to be able to pay for the other things that they trade for. So everyone will want some of everything, right? If I'm a merchant, I need all the parts and pieces, including.
That could work, but it'd be very difficult. You have to be very careful with it. Trying to control the supply of gold currency in an economy is But it's not the usual way of doing things, but it is possible. Usually try to affect demand through interest rates, and the established economies can, of course, do that. So trying to control supply by literally reducing the amount of gold that is available in the aggregate of the economy. It's a novel idea. I'd like to see how that actually fleshes out. And if it still gets too hot of the economy, the options we put out would still be there. Right. And on the plus side, too, if we do decide to do the gold selling rounds, with the limited amount of gold in there, that gold will be
A lot. Thank you, sir. Ashmore had a question.
Ashmore.
Well, the entire topic is here on currency for the game, based on the fact that we know there's going to be people that are just out there farming gold for us to buy.
Right.
So no matter what Portalarium does for us to buy gold or any of that, if Portalarium sells 1 gold for $1, eventually the gold farmer is going to sell me 1 gold for 90 cents. So Portalarium can't control that by selling gold, in my opinion. Other games have tried a very similar route, but eventually the gold farmer's going to undercut you. And the biggest problem with the gold farmers is if you pay $5 for a bunch of gold in order to pay whatever the gold sink is in the game, since that's the currency, and then somebody that plays 10 hours a week can't afford their gold sink unless they do buy it. Now you're also creating an economy where they must buy that currency in order to just play their 10 hours a week. So the whole thing is, how do you get around removing gold or removing currency? Because your problem is currency and farmers. So you either remove the farmers or you remove the currency. Right? I mean, those are honestly your only 2 choices, because the gold farmers are going to impact the game and the inflation in the game the same way as counterfeiters. So since we picked on China, if China counterfeited $20 billion a year and dropped it over our country on a plane, and it was perfect bills, how would you combat that? And incredibly similar solution to how a country would combat that as to how you guys would combat that. And I don't have an answer for that. I'm just saying that the ability to combat it is almost impossible. Germany started burning marks during World War II because we flooded their market.
In the virtual economy than it would be in a real economy. As you said, individuals can make that gold, make dollars that look exactly like U.S. dollars. Now, what would be the U.S.'s response? They would literally take every single dollar out of the economy and we'd start reprinting out new, different dollars to combat it. It would be long and arduous, but that's their only way of doing it. They could not do that in virtual, and they don't have to, because unlike our economy, there's no such thing. Okay, with a computer-based economy, there should be no question marks.
There's no counterfeit money.
Yeah, literally, the thing is, every single, it's all data. If you exchange 1 gold to Lazarus, somewhere in the data fields, that transaction should be there. You probably don't have a system of looking at it. You need a system.
We actually do.
No, we do. We have
Good.
But the gold farmer that is sitting there 24 hours a day basically running a bot or whatever it is, that's counterfeiting. They're making
That can be found.
No,
Actually,
technically they're not counterfeit.
but they're producing the product.
No, but it's
No,
the
no.
game generating the dollar with
But-
whatever serial numbers.
No,
are
no,
actually-
no, it is, yeah, no, and that's the thing, is it's real money, not counterfeit money, but they're getting that money at 0 time. You spent an hour for 10 gold, so your 10 gold is worth 1 hour. He just spent no time
Right, I had
for
10
10
bucks out
gold.
there and I made the same amount of money.
Yeah, he spent
I
no
would
time
imagine
because he
that
just
that
let something else
requires,
do it.
individuals actually monitoring
So-
how much gold is being produced
And by the way, we already, even now we do that. Even now we get reports. Chris doesn't look at them all the time, but Chris tells me he has a report that actually speaks to a variety of ways that gold is generated. Which map on the game generated the most gold this cycle? Which individual had the most gold this cycle? All basically, well, theoretically it's every map and all the amounts of gold generated every time. Theoretically it's every person, how much they went through their hands every time. But that's just too much information. But you can query it and just say, give me the outliers. And
So it's 2 standard deviations.
right, exactly. So you look, we can already look at all the outliers and go,
and these guys need some space.
Somebody needs to be banned or whatever.
Yeah,
Or at least looked at, at least examined, so you can see if they're well-organized guild, or if they're cheap.
Well, in gold farmers, usually you have 100 people or 100 accounts or 10 accounts, whatever it is, and that all funnels into one. They make the sell and they do the trade. So they're relatively easy to track after they've already done the damage, which is perfectly fine. You don't have to stop them from doing the damage. You have to track the damage.
If I was to do, if I ran the zoo, there's the point there.
I get it, you're just
I'll
ring
bet
But would actually, I refer back to the EVE Online. I will confess to a sin on EVE Online. Yes, Jack, I see your hand.
I'm just stretching it after.
You're stretching that.
After you acknowledge it, I'm stretching it out.
When you see a transaction like that on there, and I did buy some ISK on EVE one time because that has some other similar areas. And what happened was, first time when I logged in, after I had the first time I bought ISK, I got a little warning. Purchasing of ISK is against the end user license agreement. Second time
Excuse me?
ISK, interstellar credits. It's the unit of the.
How do they know you purchased it?
I thought it was just a coincidence. I didn't know.
I'm sorry I interrupted, but yes, please explain.
And, I bought this and they gave me this warning. I don't know how that happened. They must have been monitoring the actual exchange and flagged that one as being suspicious and sent me a warning right then and there. And next time I did it, I didn't get the warning when I logged in, went out and bought a day-ass shit with it, and come back next time, my account was in negatives. I had negative ISK in the game because they went in there and removed that transaction, pulled that currency from me, and basically I was punished for having done so. So
Maybe they were already watching those people.
They were watching the seller probably.
And that's very possible. This is before they came up with the Plex system inside the game, which actually really eliminated gold sellers in that game. There are still some there, but most people opt to actually go through the legitimate system. That's something else that is a selling point is it won't be just price. Yes, they can undercut for Larium at every turn. But I believe that if individuals have a choice between going through a valid exchange, in which there's no risk of, bang, they will choose that over cheap and possibly, punished in some form.
Well, I think it's more based than that. I think the risk of punishment is less of an incentive for them to use the official system than just easiness.
Yes.
Like just the ease of use of like I'm already here, I can do it here versus going to some other separate thing like eBay or whatever. I mean.
And banned gold sellers, they already have 10 other accounts, so just have to switch accounts.
Yeah, so I think if there's the official one, I think the ease of use is as important at least
Absolutely.
as the risk of banning as far as like incentives.
Instead of going to some website and risking your credit card, you're clicking on a known factor and,
I understood. But at the same time, you may end up adding risk that Portalarians in if they implement that with chargebacks. Because I can go back 3 months and anything I charge them for more on PayPal, and I can do a chargeback. And there is absolutely nothing that Portalarian can do to actually get anything back. Especially if I turn around and trade stuff.
May I interject?
We actually, we have a pretty good record with.
May I interject? Just
Sure.
for a moment. Now, in my UO days, I ran across a guy that did mega PayPal transactions. Now, this guy, because I was experiencing a lot of chargebacks, because that's what I did. I did a lot of PayPal transactions for armor built, services rendered, homes sold. In your user agreement, it's not an agreement between users, but your purchasing agreement, that it must be dictated in that agreement that that buyer understands that they are purchasing a virtual item And that virtual item is susceptible to many different factors. Deletion, wipes, and this is going into the next thing that I'm going to bring in my segment. But as long as you are covered, and that buyer understands that there is nothing guaranteed in a virtual world, but still they surrender their money. There's where your protection is. And that is what you must put, that's the information that you must put up front to that buyer. Everyone that is a BMC member, you signed a form before you joined our website. You had a terms of service and the disclaimer. And you either had to agree or disagree to that terms of service before you joined our website.
Is that firstborn child clause?
Yep.
Yep.
I was more than willing to give him mine, he wouldn't take them.
The question is do you read your terms of service and do you read your policy before you click yes and you agree to those terms of service and your purchasing service? Okay. So that is the coverage for your PayPal account. And the BMC is here to give you that and to steer you in that direction.
All in the case of Pearl, I'm sure they have similar legal agreements on this.
Sure they do. Sure they do. They wouldn't be where they're at if they didn't. But the BMC follows that model as well.
When it comes to me intentionally knowing that I'm going to do this scams, I just create 500 different email addresses. I go through the VPN and I register for a PayPal account. I don't have to be really verified.
Yes, you do. To have good business model, you must be verified.
But if I plan on spamming it,
You won't be verified.
I won't be
It's a bad
verified.
giveaway.
And then from there, it's like I'll make that massive charge, and then turn around and do a chargeback.
And I'm here to
2
tell
or 3
everyone,
months later.
I'm here to tell everyone within the sound of my voice, if you can do business with a non-verified account, don't.
I believe I was trying to say Port Larry may not have that, privilege, you know.
If you're gonna be risk averse, you're going to try to stay away from
But
selling cash.
PayPal themselves have measures within their system allow for.
It's for good. And
They
that's
have
what, that's
very
my point.
few protections for sellers. It is all for buyers. And so if you are buying a virtual good, you can go back 3 months later, right, and look at their contract over and over and over again, and sit there and do a chargeback. The seller has very little that they can say.
So what is
That's
the
not just
language?
PayPal, by the way, that's also in Visa.
Okay, so
Even-
what's the language? What language should one use
Well,
to guarantee that your curve is increased?
your terms of service aren't really going to protect you at all.
Yeah, here's, if I can, let me describe this problem to you, but more specifically from our standpoint with even Visa. You don't have to go as exotic as PayPal, even as basic as Visa. You know, Visa provides a method for us to validate that you are you and it's your card and that it's not been stolen and all this other kind of information. So we use that process. By the way, we can go beyond that process. There are services you can subscribe to that will also double check your physical address and all these extra checks on top of that. Even with Visa saying, we guarantee to you, Portalarium, this is a good Visa card, and even with a third-party company saying, yes, we agree this is a good credit card, Visa gets scammed. And when Visa gets scammed, they charge us back anyway. And by the way, when Visa gets scammed more than 3% of the time, they fine us. Because they assume we're running a kind of product that people like to scam. And by the way, games always get it. So we get fines from Visa, even though we try to validate every way they provide us and every way the private market tries to, who also people are getting ripped off by this. Everybody's trying to create tools to validate that that's a valid person with a real Visa, it's not stolen. Everything, there's all kinds of things that companies are being generated to try to prove it. And they not only fail, but they fail with a 3-month lag. And the problem with the 3-month lag is since everyone, Visa included, third party included, we have to assume also all best taken we can. It's all completely legitimate. So they go buy stuff in the game, which means they could be buying gold, literally, through if we sell gold effectively. And then 3 months later, they get their actual cash back, which they never had in the first place, because it was literally just a scam. And we get fined. But they literally not only lose the money that Visa had originally paid us, they take the money back plus a 3% plus a 10% fine.
Plus, they've already sold it then to somebody else.
Right, it's gone.
Which means you can't take it from that person, or that's just kind of.
And so the only way for us to really fight it, we can't fight it on the Visa side. The way we really have to fight it is like on the IP side. And even that's hard because of the VPN issue and other things. And so, maybe more than blacklisting things, maybe what we'll have to switch to if you're to do this is whitelisting instead of blacklisting, where instead of kicking out people who appear to be from bad areas, we start the other way and go, okay, if you're in Texas, we'll take your money. Okay, now you're in New York City. Okay, we'll take your money. And you kind of whitelist IP address by IP address. As long as they haven't ripped you off.
So what would BMC have to do to ensure that our marketing is protected and insulated as best we could, and not only the BMC, but the BMC, excuse me, y'all.
We got you. We got the idea.
But the BMC, as well as being insulated in BMC being insulated for the volume of our sales and corroboration with Larry. Bones, I need answers.
All right.
Damn it, Jim, I'm an economist, not.
But suffice to say that we're clearly on the same side.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so these are the kind of discussions we'll need to keep having, and we'll have these all the way up through launch, and it'll still get screwed up, and we'll have to make corrections post launch, and we ought to just be sharing data. Where when we see things that have come in that are scammed and a bunch of money is flooded in, we know you guys aren't the cause. So if we see a bunch of it went your way, or if we can figure that out, we'll just come talk to you about it and say, hey, help us find out who this was. Who came and
I will, if it's not already, that the purchase of gold in game or supporting of macros or gold farmers should be legal.
Absolutely.
When I bring in new recruits, we have 2 or 3 disqualified.
This is a good school.
And I make perfectly clear that we do not cheat. We do not macro, we do not script, and I explain to them what it is in case they don't understand what it is. Our guild has already banned 2 people from actually having been taught stupid enough to do it in multiplayer mode.
Literally, one of them, we started following around and just messing with the guy, trying to get some sort of response. He was crafting, we all got up on top of the crafting and danced naked in front of him.
Yeah, Terry and I tried to kill one. And with that, but anyway, so I make perfectly clear to any incoming members that is not tolerated and then we'll get kicked from. Now that's just my part. Now each emissary, after due process, but each emissary has a little bit different style of how they recruit. That just happens to be one of my policies. I guess this is so freaking far over my head, you guys. But all I can say is I'm praying for a stable economy because this game rocks. And I want this economy to be solid.
I wouldn't go so far as to put some of your registered. They definitely are on some interesting, potentially right paths. They seem like they should work for me, but I don't think it's ever been tried. And it should be interesting to see how that actually happens out. But if
we've got some months to figure it out.
Sure enough.
I've got a quick question. So I'm a simple fisherman, essentially, and one of my goals is to have a Friday night fish fry. Okay. Nutrition's going to come in. There's going to be some need to, supply and demand catching fish, processing fish, selling fish, steaks, cook them. I'm going to need spices. So I'm going to make them. The spices will have some meaning either for taste that that's good, which is going to be a new emote. Yes. Desired? That's good. Okay? See, and, or it's something that gives you some buff or something for X amount of time or whatever. So what I'd like to do is have people come to my fish from halitosis. Okay. It smells bad. Bad fish. So how, in my little supply and demand scenario, me as a small fish in this ocean of trade going on, I'm going to look for someone who's going to go out and fish for me, not a macroer, you know. I don't want a macro. I believe in that. You know, time is money, and if you're not spending time doing it, you shouldn't be getting money. In my mind, okay? So macro. So I'm going to look for a fisherman who can deliver me fish. I'm going to look for clients and people who want to come and eat my fish every Friday night, either for the entertainment value of my pub, because it's great and it's a social environment, which is a value to them, or they're going to eat my fish to nourish themselves, whatever the nutrition system causes for them to need good fish. So that simple scenario, how much do I, as a business owner of a fish restaurant, need to be concerned about where I'm getting my fish, where I'm getting my spices, you know, NBC or not, you know, where I'm getting this stuff. And I'm going to have some people want to give me, you know, people are going to give me fish. Okay, I won't have to pay for it. Wonderful. But that doesn't really do the economy any, you know, much in a macro sense. You know, people are donating to Winfield's Fish Shanty. So how stable or how predictable should, or I guess it's how 3 sigma, 2 sigma should the use, the people actually trying to give gold or make gold. If a fish steak is worth 100 gold, somebody's giving it to me for 10 or selling it for 1,000, how destabilizing might that going to be within the in-game economy? That is going to make this unrealistic and unpredictable for even all the metrics you're looking for. And
before we get to an economic answer, can I just throw out a thought?
Yes, sir.
Don't forget that nothing you described actually necessarily have to go through gold.
Correct.
And to me, as long as people are spending time on that thing, like if you have to spend even 1 minute to get one fish, and 1 minute to get one spice, and 1 minute to get one of every other thing that exists, then people will just spend their time on whatever kind of minute they like. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's a fish or a spice or neither of those. They'd rather have an apple, as long as it took a minute to plant the tree and a minute to harvest it or whatever. You know, as long as everything kind of takes a minute to go do, who cares which minute? You're just spending your time on whichever one gives you the most pleasure. And it might be role playing, it might be PvPing, it might be whatever else, as long as they all have that minute involved in it. We don't need to worry about which one's technically the most valuable or not. I look at if you look at the real economy, you know, it used to be 90% of our time we had to spend on food, clothing, and shelter. You know, now it's like less than 4% or 2% or something incredibly small. Everything else is luxury. And so whether today, this year, Nike shoes are popular or Kentucky Fried Chicken, you know, who cares? I mean, it's literally every one of them is a luxury, and what the price is almost irrelevant. If you're looking at economics theory, you know, it just depends on the velocity of money if you really want to get down to how people feel about the economy. But I wouldn't worry about just as long as it takes making a
clientele and they're enjoying it.
Because a botting system will flood. So there being so many fish everywhere, it will take the fun out of anybody wanting to be a fisherman. Right. Exactly. Because it's going to take a minute. Right. And so the one thing we got to get rid of is it doesn't take time to do that 1 minute thing. Everything needs to take a minute.
What about the corporal tunnel thing?
Oh, God. 1 minute. 1 mintake.
And also,
take a press button once per minute.
All things being equal, I'm going to continue off of Richard's in-game answer with the economic answer. Barring botters and individuals flooding the market and creating an unrealistic market, it all comes down to how many people are fishing and how sort of demand for the fish is. The market will generally sort itself out in that regard. Will there be individuals out there selling for 9 gold? Yes, I fully encourage you to buy it for $9 and sell it for whatever you would normally sell it for. There'll be people out there selling it for $1,000. Well, there'll be those who try. But they probably will find very few buyers. Markets tend to be very efficient in actually working out the median price. This actually goes on to a discussion I meant to bring up on this concerning the, shall we say, reception to the BMC's establishing of General Assembly prices. A lot of people have seen this as a
Market manipulation.
market manipulation.
Absolutely.
Because we are setting the price for the commodities. We're setting the price of the BMC side. You're welcome to sell it for more and not, and you're welcome to sell for less. If it's much less, we'll probably buy it and sell it back at our price. So there is a little bit of that there. Okay, there's a little bit of market manipulation there. But
I think that's the definition of market manipulation, isn't it?
Only an insider trade.
Oh, I mean, the stock market. You mean the entire basis of our economy?
You mean that? Quite so, quite so.
But I will go on record as saying that a lot of time and effort is spent by the BMC to actually see what the prices are in the market. We actually go out to various vendors. Many of your player-owned towns are visited by us daily, and we go to the private vendors on theirs, taking screenshots of the commodities that we actually look at. Onyx here assembles it into a spreadsheet, which he shoots to me.
And give him a hand while he's
It allows me to actually play the game instead of dwelling on this all the time.
100 blacksmith.
And that brings up a quick question on that one.
Of course. And we base our prices when we do it at General Assembly. We actually list off, this is where's a sanctioned good, this is the prices we observe. I recommend a range between this and this. And by and large, that
May I
works.
interject? We did not follow. The General Assembly did not follow the advice of Jaron Schwartzhart on spider carapaces and silver ingots. And
That's
we
right.
are totally in the toilet now. we went high. Yeah, on those two commodities. And we did not follow his direction.
They're two of the rarest commodities, right?
And we're totally in the
So
toilet.
hard to get spider carapaces now.
Spider carapace is the rarest commodity you can get, and what we pushed in the General Assembly was, we can't get the shit, so don't sell it. Make it 3,000 gold each so nobody sells it because nobody will buy it because we can't get it. It was a hoarding technique, not a real what we think the value is.
So
Didn't work.
Is there enough data really? So I'm surprised that there's actually enough, people are putting enough stuff in their vendors and selling in their economy for there to be enough data to.
Not so much in the private vendors, but the public vendors of Kingsport, Ardoris, and Alstead, especially Alstead, is a thriving marketplace. And some
We
of
can't
the
put the stupid stuff on that, it'd be much better.
and some of the private vendors, Alstead, really is picking up. We have been monitoring those prices pretty much since the release. You put those markets in there, and I have like 3 spreadsheets worth of backlog of history on it, so I can say this is when the historical prices.
Do you send your reports to us? Everybody use it to underline you, we'd just be useful to know.
Now, Jeff-
If you send us a report and a few recommendations, we'd probably follow it.
And who we send it to? Absolutely, yes. The BMC
Can I
will
interject?
now send their generated reports directly to Portalarium, per se, the president of the BMC.
All right, next.
But who do we
So that brings up the quick question. How much visibility could, now you're going out and passively trying to figure all this out, right?
No, it's quite
They're
accurate.
No, it's not passive.
I mean, actively seeing it,
Yes.
visually, passively seeing it.
Right.
Right.
And then writing, actively going to seek it. Whereas Portalarium for the NPC towns theoretically has the ability to have that information already in their database.
But
Well, no, for
they
every
do not have
player
the
on
active
vendor.
gameplay to go out and actually see what the fluctuation is
Wait.
amongst players.
Yes, but
Hold
for,
on, hold on.
for
Oh, wait for it.
So the big thing I'm wondering is, if does Portalarium have data that could be provided to economists that would help them so they could spend less time going out?
No.
scraping all
The
this
economist must.
You shush. You shush right here. That was the one thing I was gonna get to.
He's a guy. I'm just the president.
Because they're doing it based on observation.
I'm just the president.
But he's doing it based on observation, and Portolarium has it based on transaction.
No, they have it in their database. They
No,
have
you know what it is?
every
We could
item
give
on
you
my
a-
vendor.
Theoretically, we could take a snapshot of any moment in the game you wanted, or any trend line in the game that was useful.
Well, you just
So
query the
theoretically,
database.
so without, skipping ahead of any players who might be watching complaints about favoritism, which
Nobody's watching
I'm not even
yet.
sure would be the case. So let's just explore it as a theoretical. As a theoretical, we can query our database anytime we want with whatever query we would like to go into it. So anything you're going around manually and taking pictures of, hypothetically, if you describe what it is you're looking for, if you could say, I want every vendor and their prices per object, and I want it once an hour, and I want a trend line, theoretically, we could make that query.
Well, I mean, we could, if we wanted to take it to its logical extreme, I mean, we could make the equivalent of like the NASDAQ and.
Well,
we can just make them external.
Now, excuse me,
Just make it external.
while we're on that topic, this is what I want to interject. Based on Jaren's information over the last several months, when I created NBNN, one of the things I did was said, I foresee a stock ticker. And if any of you guys have ever watched, I have a stock ticker now running a commodities ticker based on his projections, based on what Onyx gathers, what other members gather, and they're out there every single week, day in, day out.
By the way, as you guys determine what is useful to watch, both, which are the key markets or every market, maybe every transaction.
Or key commodities.
No,
Or
we watch
if
commodities.
you basically, if you can describe a type of analysis that is useful, the data extraction that is useful to not only you, but any player that's seriously going to be watching this in detail. You guys are going to clearly get Kings of the Hill on that. But I don't presume, well, maybe, I'm not going to guess yet whether you would want others to have access, theoretically, the community at large to have access to that trend line.
Absolutely.
But if you can describe that well,
Data is data,
Let me say.
analysis of it and how you
act on it is
your expertise.
There are trade secrets, there are trade secrets that are BMC trade secrets.
But see, right now, because we take screenshots, we control our information.
We do.
And no one else
We
has
do.
our information.
We
Now,
do, however.
Portolarium can get through a query way more accurate than us. But
Portolarium is our parent. Now, I have always attributed the formation of the Britannian Mining Company to go all the way back to Ultima 7, which these two gentlemen created. Okay? Now, it is our duty that if we have inside information and inside screenshots and projections, because we are the Britannian Mining Company, these two gentlemen are the creators of this guild. I'm just the president. I founded the guild in 1998 after the fact, and it was coincidence. These two gentlemen are the original founders of this guild. So any information that we have should be given to Portolarium.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's becomes public information.
yeah.
no, I agree.
So it is.
I agree with that.
Lazarus,
Edit.
But by the way, here's the other thing here that I meant. If you guys can describe to us, and from a functional standpoint, what database queries would be useful for you and others to then make your strategy based upon that, we can do those queries if they're simple enough. We'll look at doing those queries.
Well, or isn't more valuable for the player economy as a whole for us not to provide them?
I was going
That could be-
to,
That could be true, but let me finish the thought.
Oh, yeah,
So the
yeah.
thought finishing would be, we could make queries that you guys think would be good to make an analysis of the internal economy, pricing, et cetera. We could make that public because you wouldn't want to show favoritism.
Right.
But then you guys can do whatever analysis on that you want, make whatever plans you want about how you want to deal with markets and buy and sell, and that you wouldn't need to tell us or anybody else. So we would just provide an externalization of market data that takes some of the labor out of the work you guys are currently doing, we can make that public.
Don't we do that?
And then you make all your deals, and you build your strategy on top of it, so it's not. But Star makes a good point too. There is actually maybe some both fun and appropriateness to let you guys do that.
Quite well,
Maybe
every
nobody else
We
has to.
can't get more.
Kind of.
Sorry.
No, but I mean,
Well, the information's technically already out there, we're just the only ones gathering.
Right, right. Well,
others
because
could.
we're the only ones gathering is why we have the curve on the market.
Exactly, so why would we want to give that information publicly then? Why would we want to give that information out?
Technically,
I
should be out.
Because
Because the BMC has always stood for being able to be step down.
I think we're getting tired.
Thank you, Jared.
I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your question, sir. Now repeat it.
No, we're, okay. We have guild members going out every day and spending their time to get these commodity prices.
Absolutely.
All right. And that's information that we use as a guild to set our own prices.
That's a correct statement.
Okay. Now, we set those prices for us to make money on. That's why.
Stop. Let me explain something. Absolutely, the BMC is here to make sure that you, as a member, has every resource available that you can open your shop. And because you are a member of this guild, we will give you everything you need, whether it be publicly or privately, that you, as a member of this guild, can reap a profit.
Right.
You. Now let me explain this. We also have duties to the public. Now I appreciate it or not. We have duties to the public. We've been around since June 6th of 1998 as a public entity. Not only have we created a guild that represents you, the member, we have created a guild that represents the public in fairness. We have a duty both to the member, we have a duty to the public.
And if we screw one, we screw the other.
We screw one, we screw the other. We are intertwined.
Right.
Why would we make it public, to answer your question?
So they know we aren't screwing them.
Because we do not want to be so convoluted and recluse that the public gets the general idea of us, this guild, the guild you are a member of,
Right.
that we are rocking them over.
Transparency
Which they already-
benefits.
Transparency is the key.
Right, but didn't have transparency in our prices? When they see the prices on our.
So be it. So be it.
They're gonna see the
What are they
prices.
going to do?
Right.
What is the natural human response?
They're gonna undercut it, and we're gonna buy it.
That's right.
There you go.
Right. And that's where our profit is.
In the margins.
Okay? It's in the margins.
And we told them what we were
Okay?
doing.
And by the way, no one else can do the analysis work on top of that. Once they see that, they're gonna be going like, oh my God, these guys are doing this to this depth. They're paying attention to this level
They have
of detail.
no clue.
There is no way I can compete with that.
Correct.
My best path in
And
life
to
is
say-
to join them.
To say on top of that is correct. That is, thank you, Mr. Jerry. And that is correct. That is absolutely correct. And that is the mission we're trying to accomplish. I'm gonna get my wine again, if you don't mind. I mean, I'm in Austin, I'm enjoying my time with the creators of Shroud the Avatar
Absolutely.
and Ultima Online.
But realistically, there's a reason why the BMC right now is the largest guild on record.
Please.
For one of those reasons, is that we provide our members with.
And we always will. Per my decree.
Why do we want
I'll
gold
stop this
transferable?
damn guild before I allow this guild to rip you off or rip you off.
I want to sell my fish. I want to eat my fish.
I might need to buy some more.
I'm gonna have to get, well,
I might need to buy some more.
no, I just set the
You
client.
can dig 'em up.
And hold on, let me run the Winfield's Crab Shack commercial here on NBNN. That's cute.
We have crabs yet?
Now, we need crabs.
Let
Can
me
we
tell you
get
like
that worm?
this.
Could that be a audit?
I spent
Crab is a
17,
larger kind of variety of crab.
I spent 17 years. Come on up, Rick, back.
Yeah, Rick, oh, yeah, here we go. Rick. A little, little
This man is
history.
now the newly.
Yeah, sorry.
Side subject.
Darren, could you just, Darren, this, you slide a little
This
one way
is,
so I
this
can
is the
get.
newly
There you go.
elected.
Beautiful.
I didn't appoint him.
Thanks for the vote.
Yes,
You're welcome.
you're newly elected Speaker of the House.
This is the newly elected Speaker of the House, which represents the legislative body of the Britannia Mining Company. He's also been a personal friend of mine, which I have only met in Austin, Texas, this year.
How long has Brick been a member of
And
BMC?
Rick has been a member of the Britannia Mining Company
2005.
All right. 10 years. This man controls the other side of the Britannia Mining Company that keeps me in check. So how can I not, to answer your question, keep what we do as a guild in check where you're concerned and where the public is concerned? I must. It is my duty as the president of BMC, because even the president has to answer to someone.
And we have to answer to the entire game as well.
Absolutely.
And even with our open policies, we have people attacking us on the forums for being sniping, nasty, blah, blah, blah. So I think that being as open as we can to continue to foster the best goodwill that we can be a very solid policy.
So.
There will always be resentment because success breeds it, but let's make it so it's just.
And if I can actually throw a comment on that, by the way, too. So we've of course known about the BMC forever, and we knew it was a large and powerful guild. But it was not possible to determine whether that large and powerful was benevolent or dominating. Well, I understand that now. I think I've understood it actually before now, by the way, too. But if you asked me that question a year ago, did I know that my personal impression of the BMC, was it benevolent or dominating? I'm not sure I would have had an opinion. I mean,
What is your opinion now, Mr.
Oh, of course you guys are benevolent. Of course you are. Unquestionably. And by the way, that's not just now. I mean, that became clear months ago, associated with something we're going to do a little bit later. But I think the public, for people who aren't interacting with you as closely as we already are, we're not members technically, but you know we're.
Well, you know what? Your membership is one.
By the way, that might be how we get those reports.
Hey, you become members, we'll give you the reports.
No employee of Fort Laramie can be a member of a.
I understand, and it's a joke. It's
Except
all
maybe
cars.
our alt character. You know, Lord Brutish might be a member, but
Lord, should I look out for that? Because Jade, as a recruiter, keep an eye out for that.
for that Lord Brutish.
Before we get to your question, sir, honest,
Well,
if you please.
one of the things I wanted to mention just briefly is that we have to recognize that we are only tracking and sanctioning prices on up to gathered and refined materials.
Absolutely.
We don't give a damn about.
Let me stop you
solar
there, sir.
Or the armor.
Let me stop you there.
And I'm going to stop him real quick to
It
let
is
everybody know that
interesting,
this is how our guild meetings go.
May I please
There you
have
go.
the floor?
Yes, sir.
This is one. Yes.
Blocking my view.
We only track the prices for the,
Gathered and refined.
there is a reason why.
It's a mystery to me so far. I'm waiting for the elucidation.
I will enlighten you, sir.
Please do.
Move the podium back, please.
Put the crown on. There we go.
Thank you.
Many years ago, while playing Ultima Online, nothing, absolutely nothing, should be built without raw materials. Thus spawned the Britannia Mining Company, because nothing could be built to include a tailoring kit, a blacksmith hammer, even a set of damn tongs without an end. Where is the most logical place to start?
Mine said you say slap me piece off.
So, we will start there also with Shroud, the avatar, because that is the mechanics that the industry has been taking. Not us, the industry. That's why we're so successful. You dream big, you act small. We will endeavor to bring to market the
Gathered and refined materials.
because that's what BMC is. We're a bunch of blue collar guys and ladies
And girls.
that found the basis of humanity. We found it in the mines. We found it in the woods. We found it in the streams. We found it at the very core of what human existence is. A virtual world.
This world ain't built on gold, it's built on iron. And wood.
It's built on heart. Love what you do when you do it.
It's built on earth.
Love what you do. Why? We don't have to know. Only you know. It's not our business. It's your. That's what the BMC extends to. That's what we long to conquer. We don't long to conquer the masses. We don't long to conquer the we want the heart. And the heart is the most blessed of every individual in this room. That's why I talk. And that's why this man talks. The BMC. Oh.
Here.
Let's get the hell out of here and let the treasurer continue.
Hello, my turn.
He hadn't given the podium up yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna follow that up.
I said to drink.
Where the heck was I?
I thought to drink.
You're
No, I mean like out there, drink, you know. Just like.
Turn
I have no idea.
But last said,
Go ahead and give
Yeah,
the podium
yeah.
to the next officer or official of the executive branch.
I don't know the Abercrombie, but she's not here.
Let him
so-
skip her and go
Bring
to the
back
next.
All right.
Bring back.
I promise to be short and sweet. Thank you to my guild members, my fellow BMC members that were able to make the trip. Certainly, my thoughts are with the folks that couldn't make it. Hopefully they can enjoy the video. They're with us in art. Hopefully they can make it next time. Thank you to Port Lamar for a wonderful game. Thanks to our friends who make it join us.
Who are you? Who the hell are you?
What the heck you do?
I mean, what
I
do
am
you
a
do?
student at Texas A&M.
No, in the BMC, what do you do?
I am the Speaker of the House.
What's that?
It is the leader of the legislative branch, and we are recruiting. What's that? We are like what? The stopgap to keep the executive branch from going crazy, because they do get a little crazy sometimes, really, with what they do. So, I hope that we can come back and help them move to bigger offices every year.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
That's my hope. Next time we're having a big community room like this.
Too far west we go to next time, right?
Just advance. And, give him. And, that's all I have. I turn the floor over to our president, Ezekiel Cooper.
One more time.
Don't give it away to EA either.
Welcome to the first annual Britannian Mining Company Convention.
Ma'am? Go.
Oh, she's ready for you. She's ready for you.
I have a few announcements to make. The emissaries, under the Vice President, will now be given an extra duty. Ian Lockery is now a newly appointed emissary. We will have, stand up, sir. We will have recruiting and
Responsibilities now.
there are added responsibilities to the emissary branch underneath the Vice President and the executive branch. And those duties are, yeah.
The duties are shit.
You're supposed to say, you were supposed to tell them that.
Duty or shit or same thing.
Duty or woo! I'm loving our convention, guys.
Yeah.
Drink a little more, it gets better.
So the extra duties will be that they will now be the diplomats to the various other guilds in the worlds of both Ultima Online and Shroud the Avatar. If you do not have an Ultima Online account, we will provide you one. There it is.
That will diminish, right?
You know, I got to tell you the truth. If Electronic Arts keeps pulling rabbits out of their butt the way that they have been, now we're there. We're going to stay there because we're not going to leave Ultima Online until it completely dies. And the reason for that is because we were there and just right after the beginning, we're going to stay there till it draws its last breath. And there is no doubt in my mind, it will draw its last breath shortly after launch.
Amen.
I kind of don't want it to. It was my first child.
Right, I understand. I understand, but
It's
called
rebirth.
I'll tell you, the tincture of Ultima Online has been both rewarding and, if I may get a little sentimental, it saved my life.
No.
Hey, listen, let me tell you guys something. In 1997, I was a very vexed and angry young man.
No.
Sure. Sure.
He's not so young anymore.
I was 23 years old. I had life carried over. I mean, I was doing all kinds of stuff that I shouldn't be doing.
Like playing games.
Sure.
That's before he was playing games.
No, that was
But, you know, actually, Richard, that was before I started playing games.
Alright, okay.
I was doing all kinds of things that I shouldn't be doing. I was doing things that were, you know, got me in a little trouble. I had to have a 3-star general waive my application to get into the United States Army before I could even enter. I was in a little trouble. Ultima Online came out September 27th, 1997, and the reason I know that is because that's the day after my birthday, September 26th. You know the date? I do remember the date.
I've seen a star remember the date. I don't remember the date.
I remember.
I mean, you
Am I correct? Am I correct?
He said yes.
No, I'm asking him directly.
He said yes.
You know, it's a
September 27th,
the day after your
1997.
birthday, you should know.
Is that long?
Star's still pondering
online.
that question.
Official ones?
Or is it
When they have
28?
early access, preloaded.
Look it up.
Look it up.
I wouldn't be saying that.
I don't remember the date. That's
All right, well, okay, but here's the
Long time
story.
ago.
Here's the story, guys. Here's the story is that in late 1997, after I was assigned to the 507th Airborne in Fort Benning, Georgia, a friend of mine there in the barracks bought the game. All right? And I heard the music Stones. I was laying on my rack.
Stones.
And I heard the music Stones, and that prompted me to arise. And I come over to his computer and I asked him, "What are you playing?" It was an innocent question. I didn't know. I wasn't into games. I played Star Trek on Sega 3 or Sega Genesis. I'm sorry. I didn't know nothing about Ultima Online. He showed me. I created a character on his account in 97. I got my own account in 98.
It's almost 30 years ago.
Amen.
I got my own account in 98. The story of the BMC. Who's interested?
Me.
Running out of time.
Yeah.
Are we?
We are. We want to go
The
do the
story of the
Halloween thing.
BMC. I'll give you the revised version. Story of the BMC is that me and a guy, we just couldn't make a living while we were in Britain. And we got killed every time we tried to make a living, so we sailed out to the south side of Britain. And we went up to Ice Island, and we stayed there 3 Earth months. And we mined ingots, and we smelted the ingots, or smelted the ore into ingots.
Where in Europe did this happen?
In Dagger Island, north of Moonglow. Don't you know your history? But but
Never mind.
we came back 3 months later, and we sold those ingots, and we bought a field stone. We went up there, we kicked it around. Well, what are we going to be? Britannia Mining Corporation, Britannia whatever. And it finally rolled off my tongue. Britannia Mining Company. I didn't know what I had. It was luck of the draw. I didn't know. It was just a name to me. Until a month later, there was a player dressed in full plate armor with a wizard hat on. He came up and said, "It's a nice name that you had." Okay, thank you. He said, "Well, it has a history." And at that point is when I was schooled of what the Britannia Mining Company was. It was founded in Ultima 7, maybe Ultima 4. I don't know. But it was Ultima 7. Well, you guys the story.
They were there.
But the storyline goes is that in Ultima 7, the Britannia Mining Company polluted Lock Lake, there above coal, and we used gargoyles as slave labor and injected them with silver sulfate in them to increase their productivity. And
Speak the truth. At least so over the internet.
But I didn't know that until after I created the guild.
Where's your buddy you created the guild with? Is he still around?
He left. He left Ultima Online, and the vice presidency passed to a man named James Murphy. And do not edit that, because those credentials need to be solidified.
No. James Murphy has his history in the Britannia Mining
James
Company.
Murphy
just
has
anybody
his
else does.
history in
Absolutely.
the Britannia Mining Company, and what a great history it is. However,
Have to expect him to be the other guy in the Air Force.
he left the guild, and the vice presidency now has passed to Xavier Starfall. But the guild has been around since 17 years. But what is the guild?
I don't know, somewhere you lock movies on and then invited us to it.
Ma'am?
I said somewhere where you locked us on the island and then invited us to your guild. in '99.
That's not a lot to say.
The only reason I locked you on that is because you couldn't recall. I mean, I wasn't gonna give you a ruin until you joined this guild. I mean, we will use persuasion any way we can.
You know, we kidnapped 2 of us. We've been playing an hour. We spent a week on an island that we couldn't get off of or do anything on. And people were like, well, recall. We're like, what's recall?
Read the manual.
So Zeke shows up like a week later and he's like, oh, you guys are
You
still here?
Still here?
He gave us the cake, gave us the house, we gave him a bunch of eggs. You know, we didn't know what they were. That's all we could do all week long.
And it's still members to this day.
Yeah.
Is that like an indentured servitude?
It has always been my policy and will remain my policy that I don't care what it takes, that you bring members into this guild because this guild is home.
That's not the way it
And
goes anymore,
you
Jay,
do.
is it?
When they take something out,
So, without further ado, yes, we have improvised and we will be improvising the emissary ranks underneath Vice President Xavier Starfall. Furthermore, next release, it is my proud pleasure to announce that the Britannian Mining Company will be opening its web stores. Woo! That means that you will be able to sell your online goods through the Britannian Mining Company's websites for real PayPal cash. We're going to go ahead and allow that to happen. Why? Because that's where we're going. That's the future. And the BMC will blaze a path into that future. However, there's one restriction. You will not list your items for sale. You will list your items for rent. Only then, after launch, then they will be for sale.
Great, that'll work.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna be changing the terms on the marketplace for what.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
To support that.
Right until the next one.
Mr. Cooper.
Ma'am,
Moving on.
you got questions? We can prolong it.
Standard operating procedure.
Are there any questions at all for me?
Are we going to Halloween
Yeah,
thing tonight?
yes,
How much?
Halloween thing,
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I do have a question.
Wait. Richard Garrett has brought to BMC's attention that at 10 o'clock or so, we need to
Have the
converge
designated
upon
drivers.
Britannia Manor for a Halloween party or a Halloween.
Is it Britannia Manor?
No, no.
No, thank you. Let's
It's a
clarify.
ghost town that's nearby.
Okay, it's a ghost town nearby. And do we need to buy tickets or can we pay at the door?
Yes.
I got you covered.
Huh? What?
I got you covered.
You don't have to do that.
Already taken care of.
Well, thank
We're
you.
not
Well, now, wait a
gonna
minute,
try,
you asked for 2 years for us to give you money to build a game.
This is different. So as you guys, I used to run a big haunted house in my house. We
Yes,
put it on,
yes,
we actually
we
put
do.
it on for free to the general public.
Yes, sir.
And after I quit doing the haunted house specifically at my house,
Yes, sir.
the group that grew bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and eventually outgrew my house continued outside of my house independently. And they call themselves Scare for Cure. They actually do it for charity. And it's continued to this day. It still includes a ton of the stuff from my house.
Okay.
But a lot, and half the staff is still the exact same staff. But we're actually on the right side of town compared to Fort Marion. We're closer to that ghost town. I'll get the address here for people in there. And we can frankly go anytime we want, just because it's still sort of named after us, and they still give us credit for it, even though we haven't had anything to do with it in 15 years.
Who would like to go to Richard
But
Garrett's
you're
haunted
all
house?
welcome to go. Oh, by the way, yes. By the way, there is lots of blood. I mean, truly lots of blood. You will be covered in blood. So don't take anything. Don't wear anything you don't want to be covered in blood. And for you, for this, you'll at least make them aware of it, because otherwise they'll.
Especially this.
It's sort of a full contact thing. So
Is there any cannibal?
by the way, they have some people that they don't want to have contact.
Yeah.
And so you should be okay. I think you'll be fine. You just need to make sure that.
Does it wash off?
It all washes off. It all washes
Is
off.
it real blood?
No cannibal.
Of course it is.
Excellent.
It's of children that were killed in Oklahoma 4. Cannibalism, of course. Every good game has cannibalism in it.
Agreed.
Any further questions for the president?
No.
No.
Oh, yes, I have one more question for the president. And of course, I ask this at every guild meeting when we're online.
Go ahead.
How do you feel about full frontal male nudity?
You can like right now?
Just right now?
Offering that thing? I don't freaking
I turn
Sorry, the
over
Hobbit's
to
missing.
the guild steward for any final questions and adjournment of the first annual Italian Mining Family Convention.
Stuart, before we adjourn, Winfield has something and we have something, so.
Oh, okay.
Just note before adjournment.
Okay,
What
then,
the hell is my line?
can I offer you the podium?
Certainly.
Winfield.
In Vas Plum.
All
Ah.
right.
What are you doing?
In Vas Plum.
Fish.
Headshot.
No, that was, oh, that wasn't his thing. I thought it was like, oh, that was the intro. That was the intro. Dramatic intro.
I'll be right back.
You're right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Should we solve? It's still time.
How many fish have you caught in the history of Britannia?
In the history of Britannia.
Yes.
Well,
New Britannia and old?
New and old.
Okay, we have to clarify.
Probably 275,292.
Wow. And how many leather boots?
Yeah, boots.
How many leather boots?
Rings one.
Yeah. Whoa.
One ring. And I got 15 minutes to try to do that.
And since then?
0.
Wait, and how quickly after the release were you fishing? Because we turned down the frequency of the rain
It was
with the first patch.
I think it was before the first.
Okay.
So
I've never even
So
seen
it's
a
a lot,
ring
it's a
in the
lot
game.
harder to get the rain.
It's not harder now.
I've never even seen a ring in the game at all. Period.
No.
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
I own one.
Zero.
I haven't fished one up yet.
The one ring to roll them all. And when I my best story of selling fish was at the U Moongate in Faluca on Chesapeake, where all the PKs hang out. Any PKs in the room?
Me.
We already talked. So I was out there selling fish for 2 gold. Just 2 gold fish, and I had this little macro. I just kind of, I said, fish 2 gold.
Oh, we didn't macro, did we?
No, it wasn't a macro. Copy paste, copy paste.
Shortcut. Control V, right?
And so I go out there and I get out of the Moongate, out of the little area where you're protected, and people were, and they, nope, dead, I'm dead, right away. So fish, 2 gold, up, I'm dead right away again, get right back. No, I was in newbie clothes, I had nothing to lose. And I'd go get some more fish, and they would steal my fish, and everything. You'd see it kind of float out of my body. And so after a little while, I started bringing a table out and sat down there with a fish. And I put fish on the table. That was different to them, all these PKs. I'm like, this guy's putting a table out. Did you feed the fish? Did what? Did you feed the fish? No. Wow. I'm putting fish on the table. This was different. Now, half the PKs were defending me, and the other half of the PKs were trying to kill me. I became the flag. Either kill or defend.
Control point.
I was the control point. And I would move my table, around, and then you'd see a whole bunch of guild mates, defend, and then the other ones try to kill me, and it was just a blast. So selling fish for 2 gold in Ultima Online back in 90 years. So 2 gold, I guess it's probably more expensive. I would hope so. I would hope so. So you those who came to the move today got some posters from me.
Yes,
Okay?
they were wonderful, thank you.
And appreciate you coming to the big move, and appreciate Star and Richard signing those as well. So the trend we're trying to do also with player gatherings, I've talked to Gina about this, Fire Lotus, and she loves the ideas. But when you guys get together, we all get together around the world, whether it be Tokyo or Athens or New York City or something.
Next year in Vegas.
Vegas. Through online, we're going to share templates for these things. But to also signify my appreciation for you inviting me to your first annual convention of the BMC.
And the second annual will be announced on our website momentarily.
Really?
Yes, it will.
We were talking about this,
No,
maybe?
we will be announcing our second BMCs. Now, we're not talking about the Salt Lake City thing. We're talking about the BMC second annual. We're not going to have any other second annual except in Austin, Texas. That's where it's going to be.
I was going to suggest mentioning the Salt Lake City thing that Richard.
Yeah, and we're going to set that up together.
It's in the works.
So Salt Lake City and this we'll be doing that. So thank you for having me. I have 4 printouts of a new poster that you haven't seen that I would like to present to the BMC on behalf of Paxlair and myself, Winfield, the governor of Paxlair, and Sire there is a copy, and it reads, supplies, demand, prices, the economy, what will it be? Paxlair gives special thanks to the Britannian Mining Company for the invitation and opportunity to attend its historical event in Austin, Texas on October 17th, 2015. Signed, Winfield, Governor of Paxlair. Thank you very much. 2 copies for your officers and gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Winfield, you're awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
I love fishing with you. I've been fishing with you.
Always.
All right. So,
And here we go.
I whispered over to Richard at some point during this that we have the most awesome job ever. Like,
Yes, you guys do.
And attending events like this and interacting with folks like yourselves just is the greatest thing ever. Like it makes our jobs the joy that they are. So thank you very much.
Truly.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have a little bit of official recognition for a few people and the guild as a whole. So first of all,
So the guild as a whole, you've already heard, your guild has already heard this verbally, but we've not been able to do this physically, which is your royal warrants. The work that you all as a guild do for the community, for the economy, is really beyond. Yes, beyond measure, and we wanted you to have this physically to go along with what we previously announced.
And sir, on behalf of the entire membership of the BMC, I accept this royal warrant, and thank you so much.
Okay, and that might be theirs, that's true.
That's theirs.
But this is yours. We have something called the Order of the New Britannian Empire. We have at least one member here with Winfield. And this is basically a knighthood within the realms of New Britannia.
Well, now, may I say something? Didn't you knight me already in game when I kneeled before you at our craft fair?
Well,
not quite the same
was
thing.
that
It's not quite the same thing.
That was something else.
This actually has more value than that. And so we wanted also to do this for you, if I may actually pin it upon your shirt here, sir.
Stick 'em.
I'll try
20
not
bucks
to,
on
you know,
Friday
give you
night.
too much of your flesh.
Stick 'em, stick 'em.
Hold on, but
It's got a star sticking out.
please, sir.
It's stuck.
Please turn and face the camera.
Look at that. Thank you. Very well.
Congratulations.
All right, we have one more, and he needs to get up from his sitting position. Lazarus.
You too, more than deserve to become a knight of New
I
Britannia.
am so honored.
Thank you.
I am, well,
Gold Star?
hold on, face the camera.
Here we go. And for you, maybe I will go right into the skin
Oh,
there.
Make it hurt, please.
It's not the first star, man.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much. What you do for not only your own community, but the community at large, and us.
Yeah, we've been working with you guys, I've interviewed you all. And I'm gonna stick this stuff in the camera here. Hell, I'm gonna take the podium.
Do it! Right here.
I'll score you that directing up here.
We got Richard saying, hey, just don't
And here
click
you
on
go.
my
Touch
video.
anything.
You don't want to see
Oh, my
that.
goodness. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I came in here last December. I missed the Yule hat by 3 days because I had no clue what was going on. I've been watching Shroud of the Avatar for the longest time, and I said, let me jump in. And one day, I was having a conversation, I was hanging out with everybody, and I've been conversing with everybody. Winfield, you and I, we talk a lot. I talk with Blake, I talk with my guild members, I talk with the community. I love it. I love this shit. I gotta put that on record for everybody. One of the first things I said to Ezekiel Cooper was, I'm hanging out with Jack Frost, I'm streaming. I've got my own little music thing going. I says, you know what? I want to be the next Howard Stern of Shroud of the Avatar. We were sitting in a room one night in Mumble talking, and I got to tell this story. And we were just shooting the shit, and you know, I could see this going. I says, we got the video part, we got this, we got that, and we were just tossing around names. And truthfully, to be honest, NBNN was created just as giggles and grins. I was going to do the Adventures of Lazarus Long in Shroud of the Avatar, in Richard Garrett's new production. I says, I'm just going to go around, I'm going to do this, and then all of a sudden Zeke goes, hold on, I got an idea. He says, NBNN, the New Britannia News Network. And I said, Zeke, you're an effing genius, because I don't have to bleep that out. And within an hour, NBNN was created. We went live St. Patrick's Day this year, and in the last 9 months, it's been one hell of a ride. Somebody told me a year ago I would be standing here. Oh my God, really? Yeah. Starlong, Richard Garriott, Zeke, Jack Frost, my partner in crime, Win Silvermoon, and the rest of the guild, and everybody in the community. I got it. Amber Rain was supposed to Skype with us tonight, and I have to give her some props. Miss Amber Rain, we miss you, we love you, we wish you could have been here. Somebody told me 9 months ago I'd be talking to these guys, I'd be doing this, I'd be talking to Tracy, and we'd be part of this community, building this. I would have said, F you. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we have many more stuff, much more to come. Jack and I are continually working. We're going to be bringing new media. This is an announcement we were talking about. And I'm not going to go into particulars.
Go into detail.
No, put it on the board. Shall we? Put it on.
Go ahead. Andy, go ahead.
And again, to my Mistress of Chaos, Miss Amber Rain, we want to bring talk radio. We want to bring ways to bring other means of communication. So we've been in talks, and we are going to be bringing Radio Free Britannia to the ether vibration amplifier. We were going to be bringing our streaming, and we were going to be inviting all the other streamers. I wanted NBNN to be a 24-hour source where all the streamers can come in and we can do it. And I am working for that end to bring talk radio streaming, and all the streamers out there are now invited publicly to come and talk to me. And let's get talk radio and streaming out there. Let's get the community involved and get it out there.
Here, here.
One of the things we know, you guys are very frugal with our money. We saw that today and over the weekend with this move. All I can say is, let's get the streamers together, let's get everybody together, let's start a talk radio. One of the things I asked them was, how do we do it? He says, nobody's asked us before. I said, well, I'm asking. I want anybody to be able to have access to that, and we're going to get that code in there so anybody can have access to the ether vibration amplifier. And we're going to try and bring talk radio. Talk to us about the game. Talk to us about the development.
Absolutely.
Here, here.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. And with that, I bring that back to Ms. Jade. Can we,
Just for you to tell everyone that when we get back, we have a ball to put together for Darwin.
Yep.
And yeah, I'll make y'all vote me. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Okay. I always try to keep these skills meetings short. Obviously, today I have failed miserably. However, my husband and I, Onyx and Jade, have traveled from Washington State.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of questions, and I will make them very, very short.
Uh-oh.
That I have noted down that we were curious about that have nothing, where's your to do with economics.
Good.
Well, look at the
Started from you, and I got to deal with this
I know
every
she's
day.
looking at me. So.
Okay.
Get him, Jade.
Yeah, it's your turn. I live with it.
Okay, okay.
Poor Onyx. What the control points between zone PvP at any time in the near future, or have you considered that?
Will the control points be zoned? Oh, will they be turned into PvPs? That was the original plan by all means.
There's going to be at least one that's open.
Yeah.
But not all of them, but there will be one probably that's open.
Which one? 3 that you can get to easily, and one that's an absolute cluster.
Insane
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we still have debate. We still have debates and discussions. Like you know, to me the most interesting one that some of you saw today actually I think is Hilt. And it happens to be at an incredibly central position and have incredible value.
It's the only place you can make obsidian weapons.
And so that's
Oh boy.
but that also means it may be out of the in or maybe out of the out of that debate. But anyway, that's not things we can explore together.
absolutely.
Okay, next one, because I'm.
Okay, then.
Excuse me. When I take an item in my bank, put it in a freaking bag, okay? It's in the bag and still in the inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the
Thank you
old-
very much.
yes.
Okay, we would like to see, or at least some of us would like to see,
All of us would
take
like
an
to see.
item, place it in a freaking bag,
And it's not in the master
pass
inventory.
Right.
and not
Yes.
in the master inventory, and also be able to pick up the bag with the goods in it and hand it to somebody at a craft fair and say, here, go make your wooden box with
You
money.
would train a container with items inside.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Really
Absolutely.
noted.
Kind of miss the bag, or the
Thank
feel
you,
of the
Jay.
bags. and everything.
Next,
I'm sorry.
I miss that.
That's good. That's good.
I like
That's good.
presents at Christmas, you know, Christmas
Yeah.
boxes.
No, it's good.
The list is good, but I like to see the bags and everything with the
Yeah,
goodies in it. You know, that's pretty cool. That's the cool.
as Onyx has managed to get 100 blacksmithing in this last release, we were wondering,
Yeah. Congratulations.
if as the game exists now, as his skill goes up, does his crit, a lot of, we talked about it and nobody freaking decided. Does his opportunity crit go up as his skill level goes up? What's happening when
It's
his level goes
supposed to work that way. It may not be working that way. But eventually it's supposed to work that way.
Okay,
And so it's going to be a combination of your skill, the tools you're using, and the table itself, which will all determine your crit success.
Awesome.
Very
So
good.
the best table, the best tools with the highest skill will be the highest criticisms.
Absolutely.
And at a certain point, it'll get absurd and you'll always get criticism.
Okay. I've only got one, I'm gonna
Sure.
get rid of
This
some.
is great.
Any freaking idea, like a village rent, rental lot. Any idea what the monthly fee will be for the drain?
We were talking about this
Long-
yesterday.
long story.
I can give you a qualitative answer,
Okay.
not a quantitative answer. And you'll understand why that's the case. And I will stand and make it.
Please, please come up.
So here's the thing about rents or taxes, however you want to describe it, a rate that will come. If you don't have a tax-free lot, our theory is the following, because we've all fundamentally agreed time is money. And so really, let's measure this by time, because we don't know what a gold piece in time is worth yet. I mean, that is still yet to be determined. But we do know what we think of as the concept of time. If you think about buying, let's start with the least expensive lot that exists, a row lot. If we call that row lot has 100% value, it's not, it has some number, I don't even, right now it's in part of a pledge, so it's complicated to derive its exact value even in dollars from the pledges because it's mixed in with other freebies that come with it. But let's call it 100, whatever that value is, it's 100. If you were to own it outright and it costs 100, it would also be reasonable to say that if instead you're going to pay for it as a renter, if I own something, I could buy a house for $100. If I was going to rent it, it might be $10 a month, 10 somethings a month, because that way in 10 months I would have paid it. But since I'm renting, I keep paying after that. So in a year or two, I'll have actually paid double that price if I just pay it as a rental. And so that's the first thing to keep in your mind is that if something at 100% cost, imagine per month we'll put in 10% of that cost as its rental fee. Okay. First of all, does that seem appropriate and fair?
It depends on the price of the lots indeed, wouldn't it, in game?
So let's call it 100. X, 100x,
Okay.
100 of something. Okay. You can buy it for 100, or you can rent it for 10 a month, whatever that is. And this will be the smallest,
Row lot.
the row lot. And by the way, I could be off by 50% plus or minus. But I mean, just as a structural idea, it takes a good number of months of rent to pay for its cost to buy it outright, and then you will keep paying more than that because it's rent. You didn't pay in advance for it. If you push that now on the stack and go, okay, well then, what fraction of your life as a player should you have to work hard to pay for that? How many hours of gameplay do we think you should have to play to pay rent on a monthly basis for a lot? And the way I look at that is I go, I would describe a hardcore player as maybe 40 hours a month. That's just a number out of the blue.
And may I interject? And you have the podium, so I have the right to interject.
Please.
Onyx, what is the fraction that you would call a hardcore player for a month?
Yeah, go for it, baby.
400. Wow. In my case, it's probably $300 a month.
Okay.
By the way, the new people report a lot more than I'm thinking.
In my case,
So the part of my logic here, I think 40 is really hardcore. You're insane.
What about those of us who are there 12, 13
No,
hours?
here's the reason why I say 40 hours a month. The reason why I picked that
Now,
number.
here's the reason why I asked
Stay with
you
that number.
the question.
Let's stay with that.
Because, Richard, you have people that enjoy your game that are retirees. They are disabled. Now, Richard, I'll tell you this. In Ultima Online, I sponsored the church. And this church was an open church. And the church was receptive to all religions in Ultima Online. And all religions attended, whether they be Muslim, whether they be Christians, whether they follow the Dalai Lama, whether they follow Taoism. They followed all religions, but they were welcomed in this church. And the reason that they were welcomed in this church, Richard, is because they were disabled. And the only outlet that they had to society was through that game.
No, and by the way, which way I think is marvelous. It's a marvelous thing about online games to be able to reach people in such circumstances.
Yes, sir.
However, I still think statistically, you know, like for example, you guys are already playing the game, but the majority of people who've actually already backed the game with money are not yet playing. They're still waiting until later, right? And those people,
80%.
and that 80% of the people won't be playing 300 hours a month.
I think you're talking about a full-time student or a full-time employee. How much free time does he have?
Right, but so let me go back to where I got my 40 hours a month. Why I picked that number wasn't completely arbitrary. It really was because a normal work week is 40 hours, and therefore, if 1/4 of that you spent gaming compared to a long 8-hour day of work, if you played 2 hours a day every day you would otherwise be at work, I'm going, that's actually playing a lot. That means you're not also playing very many other MMOs, that's for sure. And but watch this. But still watch my assumption. By the way, you guys are going to prefer this outcome, I think, because I'm actually going to the number way lower than you think.
Right.
Because if I start with 40, I'm going, I think that's pretty hardcore. I'm actually going 20 hours a week is something that's more reasonable. You know, if you try to pick a more average player. And amongst an average amount of play, if you're spending your time mining for the BMC, there's a good division.
Let me correct you.
Yeah.
The BMC does not ask for their labor.
No.
The BMC,
I would use that as a. I was using it as a pleasantry. I was using it as a pleasantry.
All right.
I wasn't meaning literally.
Didn't want to get out there that we.
No. What I was really trying to say is hardcore players 40 hours and a normal player is closer to 20 hours. Then the most I would want somebody to have to labor to be able to pay an in-game gold for a row lot is probably half that, 10 hours a month. And so for me, and by the way, that's a wild ass guess. That's a guess. But somewhere in the order of magnitude of 10 hours a month, however much gold that generates is about how much gold we should charge for the monthly rent of a row house lot. That's my guesstimate.
I have to assume that you already have those numbers.
Well, the number we've been targeting is about per hour of play. We're guessing, and by the way, you guys might have better data than we do, frankly, on this. But we are guessing that the general number is something like 3,000 gold an hour. But I've actually been encouraging Chris Spears, who's the one managing this, to try to manage it towards closer to 1,000 just for easy calculation.
So what is the average?
Right now it's about, well, we thought it was 3,000. What do you think it is?
It depends on how you're making your goal.
Well, they
No, I know, but I'm on average.
Average?
Fixed to it, and so now I would say 3,000 an hour.
Okay, so maybe that's pretty accurate. But by the way, if it's wrong, we'll either adjust the gold or we'll adjust this price. But the point is, imagine 10 hours a month of play just to pay the rent on a row house lot. Now, what's interesting about that is, don't forget, the rate of scale from a row house to a village to a town to a city isn't linear. It's an exponential progression. So if it takes you 10 hours to pay for a row lot, other than extremists, there's not very many people. There's not very many people on their own labor alone that can pay for a city lot or better. And we actually think that's a good thing. We actually think that we instead want the people who own city lots should be people who are going like, well, you know, I'm not going to do it just by hunting and gathering. I actually have to find a way to be a captain of industry and organize a group or figure out how to get my, what are those kind of goods you sell door to door in a pyramid-ish scheme? Amway. You know, you have to be the Amway or Mary Kay person to be the funnel through which money goes to be able to afford a city lot. But we're going, that's actually a good thing. That's what we want. We want the people who are the captains of industry to be the ones who can afford a city lot. And so that's the general structure we're looking for. That's what we're trying to accomplish, is to find a pricing that sets it that way. That a nominal player spending 10-ish hours working hard, maybe half their nominal gameplay, if they focus that on nothing but paying rent, then they can be a landowner or land renter, taxpayer. But to go above to those higher things, you have to be more of a captain of industry.
Question. Us, as player-owned town owners, how does that affect us? When
you can do whatever you want.
So,
well,
they don't necessarily.
No, it's down to the individual lot owner, right? So it all goes down to the lot deed. Everything is measured by the lot deed. So
Okay.
if someone who lives in your town who is paying taxes are still going to us, they're not going to you as the county.
Correct.
But you could charge rent independent of that to people.
For the privilege of being in your place.
How do you collect? How do you collect?
But they would still.
You
have-
kick them out if they don't pay.
They would still have to pay.
Absolutely.
My question is, would they still have to pay those astronomical, and forgive the pun, say they wanted to own a city lot, and they were an individual player. If they rented the lot, and I agreed to rent the lot to them in Black Rock Cove, would they still pay the astronomical?
If it's
Unless
not
they had
tax-free.
Yeah, unless they had a tax-free lot.
If you, the town owner, also bought on the market or previously owned a tax-free lot that you assigned to that lot and let them
Right.
habitate
But
on,
if it's taxable.
it's taxable, we're taking taxes on it.
Even
Period.
at the same rate in a public city as in a private.
We're taking to any lot that is
Absolutely.
claimed, we need to create full taxes on it. It's one of the only gold sinks in the whole game.
I think-
So it needs
I think
to be a gold sink.
I think if it's in a private town, it should be a little bit less than that.
No, if it's in a private town, you guys can organize. So here's the other thing we want to do about tax-free lots or anything you guys have in your pledges. We also want to make sure that, like, if you call the par value of a road lot $100 again, just for this easy calculation issue. When the game starts, day one, people have always asked us, how many extra lots are there going to be day one? Am I going to not be able to claim a lot because there's not enough in the world? Or if I'm a landowner, are you going to swamp the world with extra lots to where the value of my property goes to zero that I paid $100 for or whatever, or $10,000 for, whatever it was? Here's our theory on that as well. So when the game launches, we need to make sure there's enough public property, meaning not in private town, to where everyone who has a pledge in each lot type, village through boards and manor, that there's not clearly at least 1-to-1. We have to put that many lots in the game, or somebody won't be able to find a lot. But we actually think we want to put headroom in there. We're guesstimating about 30%. The reason I have 30% is one that means you don't have to find the only one that's not taken somewhere out in the wilderness and go town to town to find it. We want you to be able to find one. But also by having 30%, don't forget that extra 30%, we own it, right?
Absolutely.
It's held in type. And what we're going to do with that is if you and your pledges paid a par value-ish of $100, the 101th town, the one more than was originally in the game, we'll immediately charge 10% or 20%-ish more than your pledges did. And the second one will charge maybe 30%, and then 40%, and 50%. So as people want to buy more out of our private inventory of 30% overhead, we're going to ramp the price up fast. And the reason why is we want to drive people to buy from you, not from us, because we're trying to make people buy in your towns. We're trying to make people go trade to trade with all of you, but we also want to make sure there's headroom to where nobody's like literally out of it, that it exists, but by doing that, and by the way, we'll buy back at basically that same kind of curve, so that as people, if people who are lords of the manor aren't playing for a while and they're willing to get rid of their place because it's worth a ton of money, then we'll take it back out of the economy and we'll hold it again. And but we'll be this buffer, but that buffer should be above the values you guys paid nominally in your pledges. And then after that, if it gets down below, we'll just let it be free market and you guys can go.
Now, you mentioned that if you're lord of a manor and you don't want to play anymore, would you?
You guys own your pledges. Right? And some of the pledges actually have multiple lots and multiple houses in them.
Absolutely.
And so you all can immediately make money by going to the market and turning around and selling it.
Of course. Now, there was a topic in the forums, and somebody wanted to know if they could buy a lord of the manor and then sell off the dinner at Britannia Manor with you, and that they could do this and they could do that. And the answer was, of course, no, because it's part of a pledge reward.
Right.
Okay, so how does that figure?
Well, don't forget, like you were talking about renting a space. So
so basically where we draw the line is anything that's virtual or digital, whatever. We don't have the concept of sold bound of anything except for like there would be 3 quest specific.
Your title.
Quest. And your title.
And your title.
Other than that, nothing else is soul bound. So if like anything you want to digitally transfer inside the game, go for it. But things like dinner and the tour and stuff
And
like
the kind of
that.
That are pledge rewards.
Well, that are limited physical things that happen in
Reality.
space. No, you can't trade those. Like that.
Gotcha.
Like there's just a logistical thing of like having to keep track of it because they're not digital goods and having to they're not individual things. No.
Now,
But digital stuff. Like,
now I gotta just ask for a laugh.
sure.
Okay, as a Duke, and a lot of people still don't know that Lazarus is a Duke. Do I still get the Google chat with you guys? Even
Yeah,
We just
did last month. Yeah, we've already done two. We've already done two.
I'm joking. I mean, yeah.
And as long as I put him at I have one more thing I want to do, unless there was another question.
And there's a couple of one or two more, but they'll be
Well,
short.
let me just do one. Let me just do one thing here too. So, you know, when we talked about Britannia Mining Company technically going back to Ultima 7, which turns out to be true because I googled this quite fascinating.
Absolutely, we do our homework.
So yeah, so that's absolutely true. And Star pointed at me when you said you guys built something back to.
You damn right
when
you did.
My point is, Star pointed at me because that was technically, I guess, before you started. That was predated Star.
So you came up
But
with it.
well, no, I think that wasn't me either. Actually, by the way, that was a writer, which would have been Stephen Beeman, I think, is when I came up with it technically. But
Where's Stephen Beeman now?
he's an author. But that's not my point. The point of all this
Well, my
is something
point
else either
is-
you said or I think it was you. Somebody else was standing up here. That was you. When I was sitting there in your chair, when you were sitting up here, you were saying something about being in a Richard Garriott game. You said that, but by the way,
Absolutely.
I want to refute that because first of all, not only are all of you part of this game, and I know you all understand why we believe that, but I think it's really important that Mr. Star Long here, that you guys understand that while I have been a thread of continuity,
We do.
you guys know this is the guy that really built Ultima Online. I get the credit as Mr. Ultima. That's the guy that hired every person, scheduled
Somebody
every
stand
task.
up.
Everybody, please.
And by the way, you're also in Shroud
Can we get Mr. Corpian up here just for a word?
Come on up.
Mr.
Come on up,
Corpian.
sir. No. Come on up.
I'm good.
But really, it honestly makes me feel, and in some ways uncomfortable when people say Richard Garriott game, which by the way I take in the best possible way. I really do. I know it's well.
And I know you took your time
but
the
I'm
other day.
always going like, dude, this guy, this is the guy right here.
May I please say?
No.
No, don't, no.
It's our party.
Then, she gonna take any credit for like
That.
6?
I get that too.
That.
Yeah.
Pre-UO, I will
You were
take a
there.
lot of credit. Pre-UO, I will take it.
I will say
Alright.
this.
But after that,
That,
So-
ladies and gentlemen, when you stand up in front of a crowd of people and you acknowledge, as Mr. Garriott just did, that is the heart of the Britannia Mining Company. That is exactly what we're about. That was a deal. I didn't know that.
Thank you, Star. Go, James, go.
I'm gonna, no, two more. We have a lady in our guild.
Yes.
Could not be here today. Who
Yes.
enjoys decorating.
Miss River, Bishop?
And
River Book.
Oh yeah.
Richard knows River.
And we have other guilds that have fabulous decorators, and I just would like to put a word out for them, that they want all the trinkets, bottles, crap that they can make to stick on the ceilings, the walls, the wherever, anything you want to put in the game, they're just dying to be able to, oh my God, I can turn that ball into a tornado and I can put it here, or I can take this, or whatever. So they want lots of trinkets and goodies, and I'm just sharing that from your.
So the long-term goal is everything in the game should be a decoratable.
Yes.
should be
Craftable,
used-
decoratable,
Yes.
So
placeable.
every like all the wearables, like you should be able to put your weapons up.
Yes.
But by the way, the
Absolutely.
work associated with that is immense. Immense. I mean, literally immense. And so that's why we started with the stuff that's the biggest and the hardest.
But the
first.
goal, the long-term goal is all everything,
Is
and we don't have ceilings working yet, but the goal is to have ceilings working.
Does that include like the actual currency gold you're carrying? Like
Maybe not having your house is certain visible.
Maybe we'll check little. That's a different thing, but
Maybe.
I would like to ask if Onyx would like to ask anything about free attack.
About what?
Free attack.
Chris
is
I'm
here.
just having difficulty.
Yeah, really.
Getting free attack to work.
Mhm.
I don't know if it has to do with disabling auto attack and not logging out and logging back in again, but I don't think this is the forum for that. But
Yeah, sadly,
we're not the people
Chris
to
would be the
get a
best.
good answer. I want to get a hold of Chris about
Yeah,
that aspect.
I am not.
But feel free to PM me in the forums.
I would love to open it up to fast, succinct questions. If anybody else would like to ask anything before we go.
I do have one
Yes,
more.
Winfield.
When will we have ice fishing?
Episode 2.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got that recorded, by the way.
One question regarding the rent, the deeds. As a landowner, I own numerous row lot deeds and village lot deeds that I purchased from the add-on store. So I take my village lot and use that and say, he wants to rent my empty village lot at X dollars. And he wants me to put a deed on it because he can't afford one. So I put a deed on that, give him a deed for that lot, and I'm gonna rent it to him for X plus $2. And he also wants a house on it. So I'm gonna provide one of my houses and charge a little more.
Yeah.
I pay the rent, I pay portalarium for the lot,
Yeah, well,
rather than the player who's just renting from me, I have to assume.
Well, the
I mean, the way that would work currently is, if you don't want to literally give them the deed, you would claim the lot, and you'd be the owner of the lot, and then you'd set
Give
them
them
as like,
permissions.
as a candidate, you would give them a trustee or whatever permissions, which basically allows them to do anything but get rid of the lot. And then you would be paying the taxes. Now, what we don't have is a systemic way for you to collect rent, but we want to provide that.
Now, we
Eventually.
understand, we
By the way,
understand that's for
by
later
the way,
on,
there
right?
are millions of these use cases. And so it will take us a while to provide them to you in an automated way. And so we're trying to make sure that it's possible to do in a safe way, like he just mentioned, of it's yours, you belong to it, you make him a trustee, therefore you can use it. He has to be willing to accept the fact that you as the owner you have the master key, you can break into his house.
I mean, it's gonna be just like
that's the risk of being a renter.
Right, it's gonna work just like the real world. The owner of the property pays taxes to the government.
Are we gonna be able to rent rooms in a 5-story row house?
It is a stretch goal, I mean, a wish
That's
list
amazing.
goal for us to be able to get down to that granularity. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Water lots. Okay, so we all got water lots, like at least the ones that are.
If you're a founder.
Yeah, if you're a founder, we have water lots. Now we're stuck with a bunch of water houses that we can't use because there's no way to buy water property. We have 2, that's it. So now we've got like 8 houses that we can't use.
Well, the reality is there will not be enough water lots for that to matter,
Right,
but
right.
yes, oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm saying, you know,
We can't sell
we
the
can't
boats.
sell them. We
Because
can't do
nobody
anything.
has a
We're
place to
literally-
place them.
What are we doing with them?
That'll be something we'll probably correct post-launch once we figure out.
And by the way, another way we could correct that is just be willing for our agencies to buy them. And
Oh, there you go.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, the one, don't lawyer me, bro. But the one thing we have considered is the ability to have player-owned town water lot deeds.
Okay.
Because that's a sort of
That was
pressure
good.
release valve for, because water lots are the rarest lot there is, it's the hardest for us to make, et cetera, so.
Simple solution.
So we could have a way to make a deed that only works in a player-owned town.
Separate house.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
So,
Anybody
but
else?
again,
Technically.
Don't worry. Yes.
I have a question on, so in Shroud the Avatar, we're using the instancing instead of shards as a mini game. So will there be a hierarchy for like, because obviously we have a large guild and sometimes several of us will go into Owl's Head, but we'll get put into different instances. So is there going to be a hierarchy? Hey, we're in the guild, so we have to put in the same instance.
So none of that sorting, that algorithm isn't even in place yet. So
But yes.
there is no sorting algorithm other than party.
right
So
now.
that's why.
That's
Yeah,
why I
that's
always
why.
want to
But
review
it
before we
But it will be for release.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there'll be an algorithm that does everything from sorting by guild, party, people you've done
Friends,
transactions
friends
with,
list.
friends
Yes,
list.
he's
Parties, are
asking
we gonna
us
allow parties to
because
be bigger than 8 people?
we're in the same guild. We
Right.
try to come through it.
No, of course.
For real, 'cause like,
No, we get it, we get it. It happens to us too, by the way. So
Yeah,
we
now,
get it.
can I ask you a quick question on that one? Okay, I've got 1,600 friends. Is that gonna be encompassed in my
Are you
guild?
trying to have as many friends as me?
I am, man. Absolutely, I am.
Well, okay, wait, so first of all, what is in the game right now is not friends, even though we call it friends.
I have 1,600 friends.
You have 1,600 followers.
No.
You're following 1,600 people.
Whatever we wanna call it. When I look at my list, I have 1,600 people who I've added as a friend, like Richard does.
That'll get sorted underneath.
I wanna go back to release 16 or 17, when I met Richard in, Soul Town, and he said, Lazarus, tell everybody, I want everybody on my friends list to invite me, and we stood there, Jade and I, and Richard, and we started adding people, but I don't know how Richard manages to add all these friends, because he does it manually, man. He puts it in.
I do it, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you do it? So the really.
Well, first off, I had a 600 guild, list that I can just add my friends to, but
So the short.
I sit in Owl's Head and I go, add friend every time somebody runs by.
That's right.
Yeah.
Short answer.
The answer is, what is in now is more of like a follower and acquaintance. There will
Okay.
be a mutual agreed friends.
Now, we understand that that's gonna come in where people can say, no, I don't want you to friend me.
Correct.
And that's permissions
where
that
it'll
we've
get
talked about,
On
yes.
the hierarchy in the algorithm.
But,
that's
I
gonna be
mean,
sorted.
I have 1,600 friends, so when I come into an instance, and Jade is there, and Ash is
Guild
there.
gets your guild, or your first it'll be your party, then it'll be your guild, and then everything else.
Okay,
will
but
be-
a lot of times I come into Owl's Head, and I'm there by myself, and I know that Jade's there, and Zeke's there, and Ash is there, and Onyx is there, but all of a sudden I
it's
just,
just, it's not a game yet.
so it's
Yeah,
not in the game.
it's not a
None of
game
that's
yet.
in
It's not a game yet.
Yeah.
All right,
great.
next question. Next and final question.
Oh, no, wait, okay, hold on.
Follow up.
Did you need to?
Oh, no, I hadn't already, I
Okay,
just asked
all right,
that part.
next question. Next question. When do we get our big jump titles for these medals? When do we
Damn
get
good question, I don't know.
I'm gonna
Start with-
Slowly but surely.
Okay, next question.
I'm gonna bring this to a conclusion. Does anybody, Darren, go ahead.
One last question that I meant to bring up earlier. A lot of things have brought up. Is there any plans for having a listing system so that people can see what's available on public and private vendors, not necessarily buy it like a central auction house, but you can
Townwide?
see, okay, you know,
Yeah,
is this person-
that's been brought up, not just by you guys, but like, I know the syndicate really wants that too. Like, so that's been brought up, so we'll probably have
Ties
something.
all public vendors together.
Yeah.
The worldwide search.
Hey, shoot,
Yeah.
I have a question on that though, from a role-playing point of view. How is that realistic?
Okay, may I please address this?
Can you get a supermarket flyer and find one?
Hang on, guys.
Sorry.
Really got-
You can.
Going to Target online and finding what's all in all the Target stores, as well as Sears, as well as.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like that, it's just like
It
when
should,
you jump on
it's just like the newspaper.
If you want more
like,
realistic, maybe
like
like
you're
maybe
in,
like a
you're
match
in,
meeting.
Absolutely.
So could I, as a vendor, publish my stuff to that newsletter in Shroud?
Yeah.
I can choose not to.
Interesting, player vendors, sure, that could be an
Right,
option.
that's why I said just public vendors.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they can't see my hidden vendors down in my basement that they can't find. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, I mean.
Oh, in that five-story
I'm just
castle
up
basement?
your-
No, we actually, that's part of a, much more robust, set of permissions and features we wanna add to vendors anyway, like, for instance, like, we wanna make it so, you can do variable pricing based on your social graph with your vendors. So for instance, you could have a vendor on your property that has different pricing for your guild. So
We were just
basically,
talking
it'd
about
be-
that earlier.
Like, you could have a vendor that says, like guild members pay 0, but everyone else pays full
10%.
price for the items, things like that.
Great.
Okay, I would like to
Love the flexibility.
bring this to a close by coming down on one knee and begging you.
I live with.
Jared, move,
I am
Jared,
begging you. We have a
Jared.
purpose in the sky. and I do need to know when the hell X player logged on last.
We want to get that in there.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I mean, I don't know when, it's gonna go ahead.
I
About
will
release.
never be good.
But by the way, so for all of you, will you bleep this on the air? What I'm about to say?
I could I'll tell you what, I will.
Pause it.
Okay, wait, let me do this. I'll just do this. If
Alright.
you're live, go ahead and be live.
No, we're not live, we're just recording, everything
Oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna
happening is
tell, even
recorded.
if you run, I'm just gonna tell people, if you don't only use this for the right reasons.
Just pause.
I'm
Email
NBNN.
addresses are not hard to figure out, by the way. If you wanna email the head of any corporation on earth, it's usually like, first name dot last name at the company, or first initial dot last name.
I just asked Jack Frost, he has everybody's
Yeah.
information.
Anyway, but my email's pretty damn easy to figure out, so.
Arguriate.
It just might be arguriate@, which is for the case of Port Larry, might be it, or richard@garrett.com.
At Gary.com,
So anyway,
yes, I have that
but
one
the
as
point
well.
is, if you want to get something on the Jira list, and so I don't know everything that's in there, but the way we work as a team, anybody can write up anything they think really needs to be in the game. And so I do that a lot. I mean, that's really what I spend my day.
Now, Richard.
Is I'm playing the game, seeing how it's working, talking to all of you, making qualitative decisions about where it is and how we're going. I write it up in Jira's, and I submit it like any other employee, by the way. My notes go through any other process that any other employee. I'm just a little more prolific, probably.
Yeah.
Then what started out
Michael's
as
department.
he might be also
That's how it's
prolific.
working, yeah.
Well, that's his job, I guess.
Yeah.
No, we know Michael.
And his is probably more functional than mine. Or
No,
more
he has
qualitative.
lots of
qualitative
suggestions.
too?
Oh my God.
Okay, well, then what Star does is Star has to pour through anything anybody puts in as a suggestion, a bug, or a feature, or whatever else. He has to make the judgment as to, is this like, we need to do this tomorrow, because there's things in the future that are dependent upon it. And if we don't do it now, it's going to have a long-term effect that we need to correct. Or is it something like fishing, which waited a long time because there weren't very many downstream things from fishing, other than maybe nature and nutrition, which he also thinks of as not many things downstream. So both those got pushed off a long way, much to my chagrin. And but that's Star's job, is to sequence all this and make the decisions as to how this.
And we would have given you many more months to do it.
Now I've got so far away from the original suggestion.
Shall I get back on my knee?
No, you don't need to. But if you have a very specific thing like this, like here's a function we really need, private message me on the boards, write me a direct email. Just don't write me a paragraph or a tome, or I really can't read it.
Quick message.
No way.
Yeah. Drop an
Make a
idea.
bullet point. Just send me a note that says, hey, we talked about this. Maybe you want to put it in Jira. That's our internal bug tracking system. Send me a little note. I'll put it as a Jira. It'll show up on his desk. He'll either go, shut up, it's already in there. Or he'll put it in, and he'll put it somewhere up or downstream. It might mean episode 2. It might mean next month. It might be somewhere in between. But that's the way we work. And trust that once it's on paper, like once on electronics, paper, we won't forget after that point. It will be there, and we'll eventually get to it.
For the record, Jack and I have been screaming at the top of our lungs that you guys are not inaccessible. Anybody from Briar Vesper, and you know Briar Vesper Cafe, $45 account, has made his mark on the game.
Oh, yeah.
He's working with Winfield, and Winfield will tell you.
Fishing Shack made by Briar.
Okay.
How about it?
Thank you very much. I want to get this on the record that if you have a $45 account, or you're a Lord and a Manor, or you're a Duke, write an email. Talk to these guys. Get in the forums. It is not beyond the realm of possibility. People ask me how I get my information. I says, I ask.
Right. Yeah. That's it.
I ask. That's it. I write an email. Somebody says, how did you get the interviews with Richard and Star and Chris?
I do know the answer to that.
Yeah, I asked Jack for the email addresses, and he gave me.
This is after I asked them if it would be okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
but it's always okay.
But-
What's really weird is
drop
most
an
people
email
just
to
don't
Richard.
write. I mean, they really just don't. And it's not because they don't know the address. It's because they either feel embarrassed, or they're not sure you would want to respond, or they're worried about being in an imposition.
A lot of us have that feeling.
Because I also don't want people to be in imposition. But I've already stated that the way to not be in imposition is just be succinct.
I mean, we tweet every day.
Every day.
You do, I do, Jack does, and we have little innuendo going on sometimes.
Yeah.
But you guys are so accessible to the whole community, and people go, well, we watch this and we put our questions in, and nobody answers our questions. Well, did you drop it in the forums? Well, no. Did you drop it in,
Did you tweet
a
it at
PM.
Richard Garriott?
Did you do anything that,
Cannibalism.
oh, no? Cannibalism. So, we are gonna challenge you right now. We know the community wants it. We know Amber Rain wants to make Lord British stew. And I'm fighting on Amber Rain's
You gotta
court.
kill me to do it.
Hey, we're into that, brother. But I will end my tirade. Thank you, Dave.
I would like to first of all say, I think I can speak for the room that having access to this person has been.
And this is how easy it
phenomenal
is, yes.
experience for me. And if there are no further questions, I am going to count to 3 and adjourn this meeting. 1, 2,
Pressure.
we're out of here.
We're out of here.
Did anybody not get a coin today?
We'll take a couple more off your hands.
Anyone not get a coin? Did not get a coin? There you go. Stars. Did you get a coin? What is it?
Yeah, I got one of those. Okay.
I'm going to, you all have, don't you have one?
I have several for you.
Oh, we did give away on the street.
Yes, we're gonna give it away on the street.
Oh, then, what is it? We just got a list of communication. I can.
These are gonna be given away on NBNN.
So I write down all of these. No, that's fine. That was part of the telephone. Here. I was asking. Tell it to me.
Yeah. Excellent presentation. Excellent job. Excellent job.
Hey, Lance,
Yes.
you need to retweet something that this is.
Good representation. I'll retweet one now. I'm now a 1 meeting holder now.
Yeah, 1 4 NBNN, Texas. 78665
Very good.
Okay. I want you to look at the camera over there and say, "Hi, Mom, I'm on NBNN."
1 4.
Everybody go. Yeah, right there. The camera. Who likes? Go to one of those cameras. Hi, Mom, I'm on NBNN.
Hi, Dad, I'm on BMC.
There you go.
Don't bring anything you don't want blood all over.
Okay.
Very well.
That is right, yeah. The shoes, no, the shoes are.
It's been documented.
They've got so much shoes that have like years of actually move and stuff. Anybody got it? Like guys,
Winfield here is the,
I asked you for very well last night.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I'll be right there.
I shared it.
Why'd you tell me?
Knock him down, man.
I have to see this.
Okay, wait, but isn't there someone who have one besides me? I don't know. I'm breaking doors.
All the way.
I'm glad we were.
We spent 35 hours at the level.
Those titles already made.
I don't know that that's true. We might have to manually kick it on. I don't think it really is.
I think so.
It's probably a manual.
Don't worry about it.
Dan, can you go?
First name, last name, and phone number, and tell us.
I want to see if I can.
No, we're concerned.
I definitely gotta get Richard to get that.
No, yes, it's not your email, I'll get you a link.
That was more in
Spreadsheets for the,
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
Pardon me, I'm just gonna
Last, you're gonna be right with me. Request, please, we will get you something. Absolutely. It's a little odd, but I just wouldn't mind having you.
Oh, very afraid. Yes.
Because we want the freedom. We get capitalism.
Let me do this and then
Greetings, this is Roy British, and you're watching New Britannia News Network.
Like we did,
Exactly, I mean,
no, but, I mean, you went, you says, oh, I got this brand new jacket you put on the whole interview. And that, we're talking, and we're recording, so, and you were like, I think I'm curious something. Anyway, I took the pause, we had 1 hour, and I did soundbite, I did a deal so I could do my little and then we did these wonderful sound bites, and I got beautiful video.
Well, then I'll just do a number of them, and is this the right camera?
Oh, yes, you are in the right camera. Jack,
Do we need to get these people to shut the fuck up?
no, I actually, we already got that. I can use that as a, like, let me get this out of the way. Which one? I need that one. I need that one. I gotta get rid of that one.
Need to make sure I saw the camera blink, so be sure we're recording.
Yeah, last time my problem was, oh, shut the fuck up! I'm serious. We are recording. It's a joke. Richard is doing NBNN a very big favor, and I missed this while we did the interview.
Photo on it.
So, looking into the camera, let's get, and actually, I would love to have everybody get in here. I'll tell you what, let me just get this real quick. Yeah, let everybody get in the background. This will make, there we go. Everybody in the background, come on. Everybody, come on, Jack, you gotta get there. This makes it even more, and I was gonna ask you when I was bothering you. Okay.
And we'll just do a few in a row, right?
Hold on. Now, everybody's reflecting light off these bald heads over here.
Bald domes. Useless.
Okay. Jack and Star, you gotta back off just a little bit there because we're getting a little too much. Hello, my name is Richard Garriott, and you're watching NBNN. And
my name's not Richard. My name is Lord British.
Woo! I'm Lord British, baby.
It's straight.
For NBNN, for posterity's sake, and we got everybody else out there.
Greetings. This is Lord British, and you are watching NBNN. Greetings. This is Lord British, and you're watching New Britannia News Network. Greetings. This is Lord British and Darkstar. You are watching NBNN.
All right, everybody in the background. Greetings. This is
Darkstar. You are watching NBNNN.
Greetings. This is Lord British. You are watching NBNN.
Greetings, this is Jack Frost of the Britannian Mining Company, and you're watching NBNN.
Greetings, this is Ash Mullen. You are watching BNNN.
Greetings, this is Led Zepp. You are watching NBN.
You better be watching NBN.
Better be.
Greetings. This is Duke Ezekiel Cooper, Britannian Mining Company. Thanks for watching News Britannia News Network.
Greetings. Welcome to New Britannia News Network.
Greetings, this is Brickbat of the Britannia Mining Company, and you are watching the official New Britannia News Network.
Come here. Where's more?
Greetings, this is Winfield of Pax Lair. Go fishing and watch NBNN every day.
Bring bait.
Greetings, this is Xavier Starfall, and you're watching NBNN. Hi, Mom.
Greetings, this is Saffron from Planet of the Wolf. You're watching NBNN.
Greetings, this is Talon Card from Planet of the Wolf, and you're watching NBNN.
What am I doing?
You're watching NBN.
You're watching NBN.
Who are you?
I'm Wayne Silverman, and I'm getting away from the camera now.
If you haven't figured it out yet, you're watching NBNN.
Your dance.
This is Cynicist.
Birthday boy.
Oh yeah, and Jack Crossfin game. This is definitely NBNN.
Williamsburg one second.
This is
Please.
This is Third Ends, and you watch NBNN.
And again, this is Lord British. You are watching New Britannia News Network.
Yeah. Let me know what you guys
I better have my CD audio. If I have to make it a trip back to get these, Richard,
Then we'll do it.
I will.